There you
There
are.
he is.
Okay, perfect. I don't know what's going on with my view. All right. Well, it's 6 o'clock, so we can call this meeting to order. Ted Key has graced us with a treasurer's report, and so I know we normally bucket things together and approve everything, the consent agenda, the minutes, and the treasurer's report together. But Ted, did you want to say anything? Or do we not have?
I don't see him. Is he here?
Oh, okay.
I don't see him.
His report is linked in the agenda and on the website. So what do you think, Karen, as the expert in this?
I think you ask for a motion to approve the agenda, the minutes, and the treasurer's report.
Okay, you think
All
we're
of
good? Okay. Well, I would entertain a motion if anybody wants to throw one out there.
I move we approve the minutes and the treasury report.
Second. Right. Yay, thank you guys.
Who seconded that?
That was Jen Lawson.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Well, then we can keep it moving over to
But we need to vote.
Oh, geez. Wow. Just ignore me. All right. So all right, let's take a vote on that. Are there any negatives?
Of course not. All right, let's go.
Okay, let's keep it moving. Thank you, Karen. All right, I'm anxious to get to public comment because I feel like I've gotten 50 emails like, well, I'm just going to bring up this one thing. I'm just going to bring up. So raise your hands and let's get through it. Who has something to say? 3 minutes per person. And somehow I'm not seeing any hands up. Is that possible? Katie, is that your hand? All right, go ahead.
She's muted.
Oh, you're muted.
I unmuted.
All right.
I wanted to just bring up a concern that I have with our neighborhood, which I've reached out to multiple agencies about on Newton Drive. And forgive me for I'm a little nervous, but basically the neighborhood, we all acknowledge that there's been a long-term problem, and I'm trying to do my part to get the situation in front of the right individuals and the right departments that have an authority to do something about it. And the sheriff's office and fire department are essentially hamstrung, and code compliance seems that would be the only authority to do something. So there's no question that the properties I'm talking about are not compliant with multiple code violations, from structures to parking to trash, and they present dangers to the community in a lot of ways, including mostly fire danger. And as we enter the driest season of the year, this becomes an even greater danger. And I want to commend the Cambria Fire Department because they've gone to great lengths to reach out to our community to ensure that we property owners are taking all the proper steps to mitigate the danger, and like having defensible space and weed abatement and having our structures meet code. And I, as a property owner, have gone to great lengths to make my property as safe as possible. But as Chief Berkey said at the last fire safety meeting that I was at, it takes all of us to keep us safe, including neighbors. So what I'm trying to find here is a little accountability, that comes from both property owners and the county, which is ultimately responsible for enforcing the laws that are on the books. So I am hoping to find some kind of traction and action in the situation.
Katie, let me ask, have you reported this as a code enforcement violation?
I have filed with the county. Yes, I have a file number.
Okay, so have you also called the sheriff?
Multiple times.
Okay, so we can address that with them tonight then.
I've had the fire department has come out 3 times since I've been here in the last 10 months to have them put out fires, illegal trash fires that they.
Oh, okay.
So.
Okay, thank you, Katie. So yeah, I think most parties, fire, CCSD, sheriff, code enforcement are aware of this issue, and everybody's attempting to deal with it in the best way possible. I think it's just, it's tough because it's one of those situations where there's so much happening that like, and each individual little thing is a concern, and then they all come together, like illegal grading, which can lead to flooding in the winter, and burning trash, which can lead to, you know, fires in any season, but fire season, you know, specifically. And then there's a whole host of other things. And so, thank you for bringing it up here, Katie. And we'll keep on keeping on. And I know Commander Bossel, I think if he's not here, and I'm not even going to attempt to look through the images of people on here, but if he's not here, then we'll keep on it. So thank you. And then, Matthew, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with Katie. We met with code enforcement actually yesterday, and we had a good conversation. There's obviously it's multifaceted. CCSD has limited reach in terms of its, you know, enforcement when it comes to land use and those types of things, especially with code enforcement. But we had some good conversations with them. I'm working with the fire chief. They do have an active case in addition to yours that they're looking at. And we are looking to connect perhaps, and I can connect with you offline, but the more people that chime in on this, and I know there's some barriers and some apprehension, maybe with some other neighbors about communicating this to code enforcement, but the more information we can get to them from multiple stakeholders within that area has a little more teeth. And again, pictures, videos, these types of things.
I've submitted a lot of those. I have more since I first met with you. I've also spoken with neighbors, and I have sent a document that talks about the neighbors' concerns. I don't name them individually as people are concerned for their safety, which I'll be blunt, I am now too.
Yeah.
Right.
And Katie did send that to me today. So
Oh,
she
perfect.
quick after our meeting. So yeah.
So I'll do my best to funnel the information through to code enforcement. So keep in touch with me. And, you know, if you have any other neighbors that would like to speak with me, and code enforcement even said, even if it's confidential or you funnel it through us, we can get that information to code enforcement and they'll start taking a look at it. So
take a look.
Okay.
yeah.
So
But I think the most important thing is just having like we emailed about, Katie, like that key list of
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying, I'm really doing my part here.
Oh, I know you are. You're amazing. And you guys, this is Katie. She's been here for a year and she's amazing, and she's active, and she's handling something that's been going on for like 30 years in her community. So thank you.
She's baffling to me, so.
And Dane, I see your hand up. Go for it.
Hey there, Dane Muller, County Planning. I just want to mention, Katie, I'd love to, you know, touch base with code enforcement staff. And we'll get you an update. So if you'd like to message me, feel free, and I can get you my email. I know Matt, it sounds like you already had a meeting yesterday. So feel free to CC me on any of that correspondence.
Okay.
Thank you, Dane.
Thank you very much.
Okay, is there anybody else? Dane, your hand is still up, but if I'm missing somebody, let me know. Okay. Well, there we go. Public comment. And Katie, thank you again. All right. So moving on to county local agency reports, law enforcement. I do not see Commander Abbas here, unless I'm missing him. Speak up, which may not be beneficial for the sake of the fact that I know a lot of people here have concerns over what appears to be like an increase in crime. And Darren, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm sure you hear through the grapevine. Is there anything that you might want to say? And yeah, if not, just tell us to go away.
Thanks, Christina. And for those that don't know me, I'm Darren Gennuso, the commander for Templeton CHP. And regarding your question, I can't provide any information because I don't have anything that could facilitate this conversation.
Okay. All right. Well then, and Ted, give me 1 second, because go ahead, unmute yourself, but do you have a question for Darren? Let's just put a button on the sheriff's report.
I do.
Okay,
Yeah,
then can I put a button on the sheriff's report and just connect with Brian really fast? Because I know he had a question.
sure. Yeah, no problem. I'll be happy to talk later.
Okay, give me 1 sec. So
Yeah.
Brian, do you want to unmute yourself and just kind of share with us the things that you've heard? Because I know that you hear a lot more than I do in the community in terms of things being reported. And that way, even if I send an email to Commander or boss, we can go from there.
Christina, you're talking to me?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
you emailed yesterday about.
I had a couple of things, and really they were for Commander Abbas with the Sheriff's Department. But one of them was we've had 2 sheriff's calls in the last month on our block, and I was my question was, number one, how do I find out what the results were of those calls? And we have some further issues relative to the same thing. I don't want to go over them here, but with the sheriff, we would.
Okay, okay. I just wanted to make sure I have that so I can shoot an email out. Include it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, cool. And then, Darren, do you want to go ahead with your report, or is there anything you want to share with us? I mean, it's linked in the agenda and on the website, but if there's anything you want to call out, and then Ted will get back to your question.
Sure. Let me just cover the statistics I emailed and some information regarding that. So I can give you a report for July's CHP's response for the Cambria region. For this period compared to 2024, we investigated 6 collisions. That's same as last year for the same period. 3 were property damage only. No DUI, no fatal collisions. There were 40 enforcement contacts. 23 were issued citations. 15 were for speeding and 1 for seatbelt. Of those violations, most of that stuff was along the highway, so Highway 1 or Highway 46. I don't know if I spoke about it in previous meetings. I know I've missed maybe the last couple, and I apologize, but I want you to know that it is important to me that I attend this meeting, just to provide awareness for your community from the Templeton CHP's perspective. But I've started a log which began about April, mid-April. What I wanted to know is how often our officers are patrolling the Cambria region, and that means the highways on the SR1 and SR46, and literally within the community. So that's most likely Main Street. Most officers don't patrol routinely, say like along Santa Rita Road or any of the neighborhoods. Burton, the main drives, those are routinely patrolled. Main Street for sure. But this log just gave me an idea how often our officers are in the respective communities for Templeton's region. There are 6 CSDs that we cover, including yours. It fluctuates, but for the report in June, our officers were in the Cambria region, which means a CHP black and white was in the Cambria community 26 times in June. There were 32 contacts in that through those 26 patrol times. A contact could be as simple as making an enforcement contact, or just merely an officer having a conversation with somebody in the community. In July, that was pretty similar. 23 times an officer, a CHP black and white, was in the Cambria community. There were 11 contacts for that period of time. And if you're asking about or wondering about these contacts, I wanted to know that information because it makes a difference. As you know, as citizens, people tend to not do bad things when they know they're being watched. And when they're being watched by law enforcement, they tend to do fewer bad things, hopefully. For instance, in the highway patrol world, people slow down when they see them black and white on the side of the road, whether they're taking notes, staring at the ocean, or enforcing traffic through radar. And when they drive through communities and have conversations with people, that helps build bridges. It helps increase awareness of law enforcement, specifically CHPs involvement in the community. And it helps build trust. So that's important that our officers are not just driving through, but actually talking to people in the community. And we don't know if those are residents or, transient folks, tourists, et cetera. But nonetheless, they're having conversations in the community. I think that's important to know. I am happy to know that, all right, I also want to let you know that I've spoken in the past that Templeton CHP has received several new officers from the academy reported for their careers into Templeton. We have now received 5 new officers in the past 12 to 24 months, and they were all off their training phase. They are fledgling officers out there patrolling the highways and starting their new career. But the good news is that increases our staffing, and it ensures that a black and white is scheduled or assigned to the Cambria region, probably every single day. Whether you see them or not, that's just hard to say, but nonetheless, they're on the priority or should be on the priority for going out there probably every single day. And that fluctuates depending on calls for service or whether staffing is short that day or not. But either way, we're equipped to be able to handle calls out in Cambria and provide the service. I also want to say that there was a meeting, it may have been a number of months ago. There was some questions online, and then I know that I was corresponding with you, Christina. I don't remember who else on this Zoom may have been there, but there's questions about the roadway right-of-ways and jurisdiction, like for vehicles that may be oversized or parking and should be moved. It's still a moving target. Christina, I sent you an email earlier today. I don't know if you responded or not. I didn't look back.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. But I want you to know that on my side, I think it was not a closed conversation. I don't think we found resolution for that. But I wanted just to let the board know that I was on a new meeting with County Public Works today, myself with the commander and lieutenant for San Luis CHP for the new director of Public Works for SLO County and some of the heads over there, which was quite proactive. But I brought that up also about these vehicles. In fact, I forwarded your email that we had corresponded on about those vehicles and questions on how they could be parked or what are the jurisdiction or I guess the parameters for these vehicles. It's very unclear still, even from the county side. So they were happy I brought it up. The obvious things are vehicles can't be left over 72 hours. They're subject to impoundment or I guess storage once that happens. The other question is, can a vehicle park on a narrow road and just go into their house or use that as a parking lot? The easy answer is the typical lane width for a roadway is about 12 feet. So if a vehicle is parked anywhere within that 12 feet, it's in violation of various vehicle or county codes or ordinances. So there can be some enforcement. The challenge is when there's no curbs or roadway delineations like dotted white lines, yellow lines, curbs, roadway, the white fog line or bike lanes. What's the definition of a roadway? Where's the center of the road? And nobody can answer that. I am happy to say that there's not a lot of enforcement. So we're not going out there and just towing cars or citing vehicles for violations of being parked or encroachment. The problem is when the community calls in and says, my neighbor's got a boat that's been parked out there for a long time or it's blocking a road. That's where it gets maybe questionable. There may be some reasons we could make an immediate action based on the size of the road or size of the object that we could take enforcement action to remove the vehicle. But for routine daily stuff, boats are parked, RVs are parked or covered. Those things have time and they're not really of an urgency from what we've seen so far. Other than that, I don't have anything else to report, but I am open for any questions from anybody.
Okay, thank you so much, Darren. And yeah, I think Blake, maybe I don't know if you have anything prepared for us, but I'm sure you'll chime in on this later because Blake gives kind of the perfect example of Cambria's Wild West roadways and what is
Okay.
a roadway and kind of how that creates complications for us. But I just thank you so much for sticking on this. And I think there is some room for, even if it's like red flag days and stuff like that, where we're testing certain things. So thank you. I see that you have a bunch of hands, so I'm sorry, Darren, but here you go. Brian,
Maybe,
go ahead.
maybe this is a time where my my connection goes dim and I can't hear you. There's a lot of hands, but I'm ready for it.
Part of my
Brian.
question is for Darren and related also to Matt McElhaney and potentially the CCSD fire chief. In the old days, we had CCSD fire trucks traveling through town, and they would cite places where they couldn't get through for safety reasons. And I haven't seen that in a long time, but that would surely help with some of this obstruction that we've seen on streets. You know, I know the streets in Cambria are a problem, but you should be able to get a fire truck through.
So I can respond to some of that, and I think Commander Gennuso will follow up with the rest. But we've never really had a citation program for the fire department that would allow us to cite vehicles. I think from the fire department perspective, if we had an issue with access, we would directly call CHP, Sheriff's Department, you know, wherever that jurisdiction falls in terms of its location. You know, even if we had to call a tow truck, you know, so if there's an issue with emergency access, that's the route we would take. Our citation program, or our administrative citation program, really applies to defensible space, weed abatement, things of that nature. We don't really control or have any citation abilities when it comes to county roadways or highways. So I don't think, and to my knowledge, that we've ever been able to do that. Now, that doesn't mean the fire department and the fire chief haven't coordinated with CHP and the sheriff's office to deal with some of these issues, but that's as far as our role goes. And I'll turn it over to Darren for
Or
more.
can I ask something really quick though, since Brian's been here longer than probably any of us? Like what is this that you're remembering? Like what was existing at that time? You feel like there was a time where fire trucks were rolling through and
Well,
laying-
and I think also from what Matt McElhaney is saying, maybe they didn't issue citations, but it looked like a citation. And I know there are a number of streets for example, on Marine Terrace, Madison and a few others, where it's difficult to get through in the best of times. And if there are construction trucks working, or even, you know, cars parked where they shouldn't be, it is pretty much impossible to get through. So maybe they weren't citations, but at the very least,
it was like a form of noticing.
yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. And then Darren, did you want to chime in on that, or is that?
I'm not familiar with anything like that. We wouldn't be offering any kind of warnings or we don't do anything like that. I don't have any background on those.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll look into it though, Brian, because that's interesting. I think that in any case, even if we move towards, and I'm just making this up off the top of my head, but even if we move towards a more formalized, like your cars need to be off the roads, even if it's in these high fire weeks, it would still have to begin with some form of informal noticing, correct? Otherwise people would lose their minds. So anyways, thank you, Brian, for that, because I feel like that's helpful to look into. Harry.
Christina,
Yeah.
Christina, a dimension of that would be how it's signed. So if you sign the roadways as fire lanes, then the fire chief does have more authority under the fire code to enforce the fire lanes. So I think, you know, we were headed towards an identification of, well, which are the most important ones. And I remember people up in Pine Knolls being really concerned about being able to get out.
Yes.
And the roadways being blocked, which I think you could identify those arterial roadways that are important for fire access and work with the county and the sheriff to focus on those and try to mark them better, do things to make sure that it is enforceable. rather
Yeah.
than just blindly trying to do it.
Yes, yeah. And that's kind of, yeah, where we left off, which. So thank you, Jeff, and we'll drag you into that too. All right, Harry, do you want to go ahead?
Thank you, Christina. Yes, Commander, good evening. I just wanted to, by the way, I'm on the board of the CCSD, but that's not why I'm making this comment. Well, maybe it is after all. But I've lived here almost 39 years, and except for 1 year on Park Hill, the entire time on Lodge Hill. And I have driven the corner of Burton Drive and Ardith, who knows how many, well, maybe thousands of times. Well, it just so happened on Saturday, July 28th, I was coming down Ardith, and I guess you could say I did a rolling stop. And I was pulled over by one of your officers, Jeremy Pratt. And we had a long discussion about road safety and just about life in general. I just want to let you know he's one of the most cordial, easy to get along with people that I have ever met in my life. He's a really cool guy. And I could, talk more about what we discussed, but ever since then, I have made a complete stop just about everywhere, especially the corner of Ardith and Burton. So I just want to let you know, and I'm not the only one. There's another member of the board of directors who was also pulled over by Mr. Pratt and Officer Pratt and had a little discussion as well. But I just want to let you know, not only was our discussion effective with regard to well, like I say, I've lived here almost 39 years. You figure you can do just about anything you want within the limitations of, driving the roadways. But he's a really nice person. And that's the main thing I wanted to tell you. Thank you. And he was very effective in me becoming more, how can I say, more appropriate in driving the residential areas of Cambria. Thanks.
Hey, Mr. Farmer, I'll have you know, I heard about your interaction with, his name is Patch, like Patch Adams, Officer Patch.
Oh, Patch. I wrote down Pratt. Sorry.
Yeah, he is a great guy. He came from the Bishop region over here. That's where he started out. And he has full buy-in for what community enforcement is about, like what I discussed earlier, getting officers in the community. In fact, he told me about his interaction with you about an hour after your board meeting, and I was hoping to attend that board meeting to have that conversation with you. But I'm glad it was very positive. It was really the epitome of what an officer, a positive interaction can have with the community. So I thank you for sharing that story publicly and acknowledging that happened. But it couldn't have happened to two better people. So thank you for sharing that.
well, thank you. Thank you for that comment and compliment. Thank you.
Certainly. And Mr. Bloom, you made a comment also I want to just acknowledge. Yeah, as soon as there's an ordinance set, if there's any signage that's set, everybody that can make enforcement or do enforcement has full rights for that, not just the sheriffs or the fire department. CHP can play a role in that also. And Christina, maybe this is something with you, the Chief Berkey, Director McElhaney, we could all be proactive or be innovative in something. As you identify these challenging neighborhoods and perhaps can identify truly the most hazardous roadways, and you come up with maybe signage that can go out, we'd certainly like to be a part of that and help, because really what it comes down to is, like we talked about in that wildfire, what do you call it, the seminar, the 3-day event we did back in a few months ago. We can make a difference in the Cambria community. Now, as you know, like with any municipality, government funds are limited, and certainly, the county's budget was cut, I think, 15 million this year. But if we can put something on the radar with public safety in mind, they made 0 cuts to public safety. But if you identify wildfire regions or roadways that must be identified or have been identified as crucial thoroughfares, whether that be for the number of residents for a region, we can talk about more about this offline, but that might be something you might get more traction for signage, which would increase the ability to do something. And if anything, just awareness for the neighbors.
Thank you. for that. Hopefully, I see Blake, you look like you're taking notes too. Thanks. All right, Chris, do you want to go ahead? I see your hand up. Oh, I think you're still muted. Still muted, Chris.
Mute.
There you go.
Well, there we go. Sorry about that. My comment is to Commander Gennuso. I was going to ask about more, coverage on Ardith. There's been a lot of fast and reckless driving, but I understand from what Perry just shared that you are covering Ardith, and I would appreciate you to continue to do so. I know that it's a very hazardous road at times, and that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, ma'am. If anybody has a concern about speeding or traffic violations, feel free to call the Templeton CHP, the office directly. You don't need to call dispatcher 911 and what we call a traffic complaint. There's been numerous that have come through that we're proactive on. As soon as somebody makes a complaint, we assign officers to go through there. I believe there was an email thread going through about a motorcycles with loud exhaust. I don't know if anybody was on this, but we have sent officers out there for several weeks to identify them. They even knocked on the neighbor's door to see if they could help identify or curtail it. But we're responsive to that. So if you have traffic complaints, call them in and we send officers out, and it makes a difference.
All right, thank you both. Ted, go ahead.
Thank you, Commander. I just, first of all, want to say I'm very happy to hear that you have some new recruits. My supervisor at Marine Mammal Center is a semi-retired Black Ops game warden who still does screening for new recruits. And so it's I know that it is actually quite a challenge to find good people, and I'm pleased to hear that you have found some. I have seen CHP patrol over here in Park Hill on a couple of occasions. It's always good to see. I always give them a wave when I come by. I don't always talk to them, but I certainly appreciate their presence. I just would like to say that over the past few weeks, Highway 1 from Cayucas on up through Cambria, I've seen an awfully lot of people going at least 70 miles an hour, maybe more. And it's and I think that, obviously, you have people that are trying to come in for vacation and so on and so forth, but it makes it a real hazard at 46 and 1 when people are cruising along at 70 miles an hour or better. It's hard to judge exactly, do I really have enough distance to make that turn carefully? So, whatever you can do to run your crews through there would be really an awesome thing. So anyway, that's I guess that's my 2 cents on the matter. For the business of theft, this is really not your ball game. It's really Commander Abbas's sector, but we've had some thievery going on at the top of Park Hill, so I thought I'd just mention that. But anyway, that's all I have to say, and I appreciate all that your officers are doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Key. I took some notes as you spoke. In fact, every time somebody's talking, I'm making notes to highlight anything that we could help be proactive on or address. So Cayucas, the San Luis Obispo CHP office covers up to Harmony, Highway 1 to Harmony. Then we take it north all the way to the county line at Ragged Point, or to the county line north of Ragged Point.
Well, yeah, you can start it at Harmony.
Yeah.
Problem.
And I think you're right. In fact, I used to patrol as an officer in San Luis Obispo, and I worked the Highway 1 beat. So I know what you're talking about. Speeding's a big deal. On a side note, several times as I've driven out to meetings in Cambria for speeding vehicles going north, when I pull them over, their zip codes are the Cambria zip code. So sometimes we point fingers, but we should be careful and look maybe inside and at our own dashboards.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I think you're absolutely right. But whether they come from Cambria or whether they come from Mars, they need to understand that you can't be driving 70 to 75 miles an hour in a 55 zone. It's not safe.
Very valid point for sure. But the note I did take is I may work on setting up maybe collaboration with San Luis CHP, and we stick some black and whites and do a saturation enforcement kind of some language to use. We do it on Highway 46 and 101 very often, but might be time on some of these holiday weekends or certain times of the day that we just saturate Highway 1 for some routine patrol and bring awareness. I'll get back to you on that.
I think that would be very useful, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Ted. Karen, go ahead.
Thanks. I wanted to ask Commander Gennuso, do you have off the top of your head that traffic complaint line? I'd like to put it in the minutes.
Yes, let me oh, it's on my cell phone. It's our public line for the CHP office. I don't have it memorized, but I'm gonna look it up.
I can look it up. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I do have it in front of me if you want to just take it down.
Oh, I'm ready.
Yep. 400-6720. Area code 805-400-6720. That's the Templeton CHP office.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. And then Deborah, go ahead.
Hi, referring back to the narrow roads during fires in Los Angeles County, specifically like Topanga Canyon and Malibu, they had a reverse 911 was used for the red flag warnings, and they absolutely said there's red flag warnings, no parking in red flag warning zones. And that went out to everyone. So there was no question about parking on those streets that are narrow, especially if you're worried about Pine Knolls and so on.
Thank you, Deborah. Yeah, that's definitely something that I think we're all looking at. So just little by little. But thank you for bringing that up. Harry, you want to go ahead again, or do you want to let ladies go first and let Jen Lawson go?
Sure, go right ahead. She already spoke, but I do want to make one brief little comment on speeding.
Okay, go ahead now that we know you roll through stop signs.
This goes back probably about 60 years, give or take, a little less than that. My girlfriend and I had gone up north to pick up her brother to bring him back from college. We're driving down 101. Mind you, I'm in my early 20s. I guess I was going higher than the speed limit, but I wasn't paying attention. And my girlfriend points out, look to my right. And to my right was a CHP officer driving along at the same speed with me. And he goes like this. In other words, lower it 5 miles an hour. I lowered it 5 miles an hour. He waved, and that was the end of that. So I've never forgotten that because it was extremely effective in getting the message across. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. So you stopped speeding and started running stop signs. Noted. Jen, please go ahead.
Hey, my internet's weird, but I just wanted to quickly say I've noticed, and you probably have too, and since you're taking notes, that there's a lot of U-turns right now on Highway 1. I get so scared when I see someone pulled over because I'm like, they're gonna turn into me. So anyway, I think it's a lot of tourists, they don't understand, so they just pull over to make that U-turn, but there's been so many, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lawson.
Yes, and thank you, Jen. And I don't know if you and Kermit have had a chance to connect, but okay, perfect. Because I feel like there's much ado there. All right, Brian, do you want to go ahead and
I just had one minor comment, and I've noticed on Nextdoor and I assume on the other social media sites, a lot of comments lately, especially after the Monterey Car Week, about speeding on Highway 1. And I've said this on Nextdoor a year ago and currently, they shouldn't be calling Nextdoor or social media. They should be calling the CHP or the sheriff. And so we need to make that point to everybody that the place to air your comments about speeding is not on social media. It's with the CHP. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, I feel like that applies to just about everything. So thanks for noting that. Okay. Well, we can move on, and I know you may be out of town, Darren, so if you want to skip off, you're more than welcome, but thank you for doing this. I know you got a load of questions. And thanks for being here.
Happy to be here. And Christina, thanks for the email. I did read it. Let's keep this conversation going. And I'm happy to be here for the board and keep this stuff going. Mr. Farmer, thank you for your confessions. I'm going to tap out now before I can't answer anything, or you say more than you need to. But thanks for everything. You guys enjoy your evening, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, let us recalibrate and move on to Blake. Go on ahead. Do you have anything for us?
I've got a few things, yeah, and I can of course answer questions and speak to a few things that have come up. So good evening, everybody. Blake Fixler here representing Supervisor Bruce Gibson's office. Bruce is in Sacramento this evening. This is his last year as the past president of the California State Association of Counties. So hopefully this is his last year of having to be in Sacramento more often than not. But I'm happy to be here. We were talking about public works a little bit just now with roads and such. So yes, we did have, I don't know if any of you have interacted directly with Mr. Joshua Roberts. He was our division manager over the transportation division. And when we say transportation division, usually that means roads, but it's also things like bike lanes, sidewalks, trails, not maintenance, but construction of trails. And so the new person for that role is a gentleman by the name of Jeff Lee. He is an existing county employee. He was the division manager for capital projects. He also happens to be a former city council member and mayor of the city of Grover Beach. So he certainly can understand, from our office's perspective, certain political pressures that might come in from communities in regards to that topic. But he's going to be a great person to get in the role. And I can be working with him directly on any of these issues that we've been discussing, or any kind of roads issues going forward. But I just ask a little bit of grace on behalf of the public, is that he hasn't been in the chair as long as Josh has. Josh probably knew the traffic and highways code for California inside and out. So just a little bit of grace as we get him up to speed. On the topic of right-of-way parking, and specifically on the topic of emergency access, I'd be more than happy to help get Public Works and the county involved in a more thorough discussion that would probably include membership from the NCAC, the Cambria CSD, the CHP, et cetera, to help identify specific roads that we might need to look at if there is additional signage that's needed for safety. We can take a look at that, basically just offering myself to be a partner to help liaise on a solution to that. I don't think it's a realistic solution that we're going to get every street, signed, striped, and magically upgraded. We, for better or worse, live in a old parochial zone halfway between LA and San Francisco that's still very rural, and we're dealing with roads and streets on hills that were probably planned and put in 100+ years ago when the car was invented. So we don't have the perfect metropolitan road system, but we could, of course, respond to the needs of fire and safety professionals to make sure that vehicles that need to get through can get through on any given day. I'll answer questions at the end, but I know that you got a question coming up. Just moving on, the only other thing I had prepared, that you might recall a presentation from Shawnee Song a few months back regarding changes to Title 22 and 23 that had incentives for affordable, and that means there's definitions for low and very low income housing. The supervisors heard yesterday the recommendations that came out of Planning Commission on that topic, specifically waivers to some of the smaller kind of in the margins things like maximum height, reduced minimum setback, increased maximum floor area. The developers could get waived if they have a certain percentage of on-site guaranteed affordable housing, or they contribute to a regional housing fund, and that fund would then go towards groups like People's Self-Help Housing or Habitat for Humanity to leverage into affordable units at a different location. So the board did approve those recommendations with a few minor edits. We'll have a final hearing for that in late September, so I can get a more thorough update for your council if you're interested in that at your September meeting. But it is coming before the board in decision. Their next meeting, which I think occurs before your next scheduled meeting, is on September 9th. It's very light. So unless you're interested in the Ag Commissioner's report on crops or fees that the county might impart on cannabis growers, there's not much happening at the next meeting. So the next big one will be the 23rd of September. So we'll be glad to check in with the NCAC at that point. That's all I really had prepared. It's been kind of a quiet month outside of, fires and fireworks and stuff like that going on, but I'm happy to take any questions, and I'll stick around too through the land use discussion.
Thank you, Blake. And yeah, so everybody, Blake has been helping out with the fires in SLO County. So thank you no, seriously, you're doing a lot. So thank you for being there for that. And Chris, go ahead.
Hi, Blake. I am the alternate rep for Pine Knolls for the NCAC, and I'm also the person who's distributing the fire safety information for the neighborhood liaison program for this very large neighborhood.
Yeah.
We have essentially 2 roads in and out of Pine Knolls, and if either one of them becomes impassable during an emergency, a lot of folks are stuck up here. So I'd like to know what exactly I need to do. What do I need to send you? How do I need to sort of petition the county to have someone come and take a closer look at this and make sure that we have a safe way to evacuate in an emergency in Pine Knolls?
So I'm not an expert on emergency evacuations, so I don't want to step on the toes of, a fire or safety professional. But if you email me your concerns, and I know probably which 2 roads you're talking about, I'm happy to make sure that the appropriate parties who are making those kind of decisions, and if edits need to be made, that it gets in front of those people for analysis. And that might be, a public works traffic study to look at what kind of traffic or what are the, kind of status quo ways that cars are or are not interacting on a specific roadway, whether that be parking or movement. We can do that. If it's, working with our partner at the partner agency at the CSD on making sure that they have the fire access that they feel like they need, we can do that. I'm happy to be a liaison, just with the understanding that it might not ultimately be my decision, but I'm happy to make sure that gets to where it needs to go.
Yeah, I understand that completely, but I have to say that in going around and talking to my neighbors, so I'm visiting them, introducing myself, telling them about.
Yeah, you should advocate. You're the rep.
The thing that comes up most often is that people are very concerned, and Hillcrest Road is one road that is starting to crumble in several places. Both roads are overgrown to the point where it's hard for 2 cars to pass each other, and these are main roads. So maybe it is a county works problem, I'm not sure.
It very well could be, yeah.
Okay, thanks very much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'll follow up. We're working closely with Blake and Bruce and Public Works on a lot of the different issues in Cambria. And again, right, we have a limited scope as far as the CSD as it applies to the roads, because that's not one of our principal acts. But the fire chief, myself, we're in these conversations. It's a slow moving process, and I understand the concerns, and there's several areas in the district in which our narrow roads are an issue, especially when it comes to evacuation. And so you being a liaison for your area is really important, because when we talk about these road access issues, it's about how do we get out of there early enough to where we aren't trapped with those existing road issues. And as Blake has said, we've got a lot of these areas all over the county. I would imagine. I don't want to speak for you, Blake, but
yeah.
It's all over the county, not just specific to Cambria, because we are this rural area that's now transforming into a little more robust suburb in certain areas. So the chief and I are working with Blake. We're communicating with Public Works. We've got a lot of things. We've got a lot of irons in the fire, as you say. So we'll stay on it. Just have patience with us. It's slow moving. It's a lot of navigation in these different areas. But we hear you, and we'll continue to have the dialogue.
Yeah, for better or for worse, decades of well-intentioned legislation, mostly from the state, makes it hard to do anything quickly. You have to check a lot of boxes and make a lot of findings when it comes to changing something on a permanent basis. But the county and the CCSD has been an excellent partner. I like working with them. We work together to address these issues as we can. Any other questions? I'm happy to stay on this topic, or we can bounce around too.
All right, thank you, Chris. And thank you, Blake. Let me see. I don't see any other hands up. So if there's nothing else for Blake, then I would move on to Kermit. Are you gonna do an update with the slow cog? Okay, do you want to do it now or yeah? Or do you want to do it during your report? You're muted.
Makes a difference. Okay, on August 7th, Shannon Sutherland of Pros and myself and another gentleman that was fairly new, that was in Transportation County, met with John D'Annunzio. Actually, the other gentleman was working with Caltrans as his specialty. And we went over and I thought it was kind of confidential, but what we talked about was on the publication that the Slow Cog sends out. So I guess I'm not too far off, but they got a grant. One of them was for $354,000 for Highway 1 resilience and safety study, and from Highway 1 from San Simeon to Cambria. And we'll talk about multi-model safety improvements, climate resiliency, traffic calming measures, pedestrian crossings, and strategy for reducing wildlife strikes. Slow Cog plans to request for proposals, because what this is a study that has to be done to see if there's a problem and what solutions probably would be reasonable. And then it moves on. That's long before Caltrans, which owns that highway, does anything or anybody else kicks in money for it. So the study is in line, but at least we're proceeding in that direction in a reasonably soon manner, long before we all die, and should be in the coming year and so forth. So it's going to start. There's another match with Cal Slow Cog for $46,000 for a total of $400,000, and recommendations be made. And community sports, they noted that. They talked about the wildlife letters and so forth, but that alone is kind of that's big news. Money is headed for something to be done, and that means something will be done. And I would just want to talk about Jennifer Lawson, who's our representative from San Simeon, who has agreed to be part of the Transportation Committee and represent that, and because San Simeon is very much part of our area, and it has a lot of safety issues that in the crossings of Highway 1, as much as we do. In fact, we look better because we have street lights, or at least slow them down for a while. But yes, so it's going to be the whole highway. I brought up issues of, would be nice if we were able to tie in the California trail, since that might be Caltrans right away along the highway. I know that CCSD is sort of working on that also, but frankly, I'm not sure that it could be because of the proximity of the highway right away, quite close to the road in some areas, but it's not going to extend past Cambria to San Simeon, so that's 12 miles. That's a pretty good stretch. And a lot of that stuff can be discussed, but it's a safety issue. Okay, that's my report. And welcome aboard, Jennifer.
Thank you, Kermit. Thank you, Jen. Chris, you have your hand up?
Yeah.
Your microphone again.
I know, bad with.
I know, I do the same thing.
No, muted again.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I just wanted to add with what Kermit said that Rita Burton and I have been working with John D'Annunzio and SLOCOG on this issue of safety through Cambria for quite some time. And that John D'Annunzio actually attached the petition that Rita and I sat at the farmer's market for almost 4 months, gaining signatures as the county, contributing support of wanting this done. And I just wanted to say that I really appreciate them recognizing this and taking matters to make this road safer for all. And I just, I'm really grateful. And if you ever want to stand up for something, just do it, because you never know. That's all.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. Yeah. And thank you, Kermit, for bringing that to all of us. I think it's huge. So yeah, thank you. And thanks, Jen, for agreeing to be a part of it. Okay. So Kermit, you're good. We're good to move on to Fire Safe Focus. Okay, cool. David Pearson is here. His report is linked in the agenda and on the website, but go ahead if you want to report out to us, David.
Yes, absolutely. My written report covers the chipping that was done in our community back in July, but we can get another chipping event done if enough people will sign up. The threshold is between 10 and 20 households have to go out there and sign up. And once you sign up, then when we get enough people, then they'll schedule a date and they'll get it done. So if you have stuff that you want to do or you're planning on doing it, please go out there and sign up, because when they set a date, you'll get 2 to 3 weeks notice on that date, and then you'll be able to go out there and get your stuff ready. So you don't have to have stuff ready right now in order to go out there and sign up if you got stuff to do. Second, the Coastal Commission approved the slow weed till, which is a large area, 88,000 acres, that are now approved to do forest health and fuel reduction. So that was really a good thing. Now we can go ahead and we can get some of this other stuff done. The Fire Safe Council, we had our meeting today. Fire Safe Council currently has $18 million worth of work that is underway. A lot of it is being done in and around Cambria. Currently, Strawberry Canyon is scheduled for September to get their area cleaned up, just as the Rancho Marino area was cleaned up, with getting rid of the dead and dying trees, getting rid of the invasive plants, and making it much more open and spacious. The Lemert area is also getting some treatment. They've already done some of it on the Sahagi residents, and they've got more coming on other residences up there in order to, again, get that forest up there healthy and also reduce the amount of fuel load. And finally, on Hearst Ranch, up there just on the north side of San Simeon, there's that big stand of Monterey pines that hasn't had a fire go through it this in the last 100 years. So it's very dense, very in need of cleaning up. And so they're going to start working on that also in September. So lots of things going on that are going to improve fire safety. And I'm open to any comments or questions. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And thank you for being here.
Sure.
I have a question for you, and I should know the answer. When we talk about chipping, is that like obviously sometimes trees come down or there's dead trees, and then there's like these larger logs that people have that are like super heavy, near impossible to move with 1 or 2 people. Is that like how I understand that as long as those are a certain distance away from a structure, they're fine, but if somebody wanted those chipped, is that or isn't that something that kind of falls into this? Just to
Yeah,
simplify it.
it probably doesn't, because it may be too big. You know, those chippers can only handle a certain girth of the tree. So if it's more than 8 inches in diameter, okay, probably not. But if it's more than 8 inches in diameter, you might be able to just leave it on the ground, and that would not be a fire hazard, okay? Because that'll decay over time. Those big logs are okay. But if they want more clarity, they can get it either from the fire chief or from myself by calling one of us to come out there and take a look and see what we can do about it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
Harry, go ahead.
Thank you, Christina. David, thank you so much for your, I just want to make a slight correction with regard to Strawberry Canyon. You were mentioning that the cleaning up will be starting in September. It began in July, and if it's not finished by now, it's very close to being done, maybe another week, week and a half. And they've cleared out all roughly 32 to 34 acres of Strawberry Canyon, and it's been transformed. And like you say, they've just kind of followed up on what was done at Rancho Marino, but a lot of work has been done in a very effective manner. So I just want to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Good. Thank you for the clarity.
Yeah, thank you, Harry. And thank you, David. And I feel like in all the conversation about like funding for Fiscalini Ranch and all these things, like a big part of what gets missed is the amount of work that the Fire Safe Council put into getting these grants that are actually doing millions of dollars worth of work here in Cambria. So I just want to acknowledge that, because I think so often we're looking at like what isn't being done, and like you've just been instrumental in making that happen. And that's an amount of money and work that, I mean, it would just never happen without you. So thank you, David. Brian, your hand's up. Go ahead.
I just have a quick question for David. Any update on the fire insurance situation locally, both in locally and throughout California?
The next few days, there is a red flag in most of San Luis Obispo County. The Gifford fire is 95% contained, and at our meeting today, we got a very extensive briefing on how that fire was put out and how it was managed, which was a unified command between the Forest Service and San Luis Obispo County CAL FIRE. Right now, the fire issues in California are pretty good. There aren't many fires that are out there. The Gifford fire has been the largest fire, and it supplanted the Madeira fire, which was also in San Luis Obispo County in the same exact area. Okay, both those fires, Madeira is out, Gifford is 95% contained. They're just cleaning that one up. He said that by sometime next week, Chief Owen did that by sometime next week, they'll be finished out there and they'll be done. He did say that he's requesting that all the units that are currently on site remain there for the next 3 days while we have this red flag event. I don't think Cambria is going to be a red flag area, but there's a lot of the rest of the county that will be. He also stressed that there are 2 areas of the county that were very close to getting burned in this Gifford fire, and one of them was San Luis Obispo City. Okay, if the wind had changed and gone the wrong direction at the wrong time, San Luis Obispo City would have been in big trouble on that one. So kudos to CAL FIRE and the Forest Service for doing a great job of putting that fire out. So.
Actually, my question was more about insurance. Can
Oh,
you, can
insurance.
you,
Oh,
can you,
sorry, I missed that.
tell what the status of insurance in the local area and
Yeah, nothing really new. If you, again, if you're getting, a notice from your insurance company that they're going to cancel your insurance, okay, reach out to me because there are a lot of things that we can do in order to help you out. Okay? If you can't, if you get that cancellation, you need to reach out to me and also to the fire chief so that we can get your property inspected, and that will help you keep your insurance. Other than that, there's really nothing new that we've heard of, especially in our particular area. The insurance companies are starting to come back into the area, but we haven't seen a lot of that going on in Cambria right now.
Thanks, Brian, for the question, and thanks, David. And that Jen, I saw you nodding, so if you want, I can put you guys on an email because Jen's a realtor in town. I'm sure she has a bunch of clients that just don't know what to do, so.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so thank you, David, for all your work, and it's so nice to see your face, even though you live right there and we haven't seen each other.
Yes.
So, okay, question for everyone. I know it's 7, we ran long, we had to hit the roadways, since we had Darren here. But do we still have land use to get through? Chief Berkey's out, so his report is linked in the agenda and on the website. So we have land use. I know we have Jim Green here from CCSD. He was gonna update us on the Stewart Street water tanks, and whatever CCSD may or may not want to share. Harry feels like he's in a sharing mood. So do we want to break now, or do you guys want to get through land use? And Karen, I'm just going to look at you for what you want.
I always vote for a break sooner rather than
Okay.
later.
I think we could do it, and I think we could just get through the rest of the stuff. So do you
Thank
guys
you.
want to
Thank
take,
you.
like, I don't know what's a reasonable amount of time. I like odd numbers, but do we want like 5 or do we want 7 minutes? Okay.
5's fine for me.
5's fine? Okay, let's do it. 5 minutes. And
Thank
we'll
you.
be right back. Okay, thank you. Matthew, are you there?
With bells on.
Yay, okay. Thank you. I sent you that our land use situation. But quickly, well, are we ready? Karen, do you feel like, I feel like that was 5 minutes just now at 13? Okay, cool. Before that, Dane, do you want to introduce, I know you have a new member. Is she here? And then we can skip over into regular business, but.
Yeah, really quick before we get into land use. Joined us today is Monse, and I'll definitely give her an opportunity to say hello in a second. She might be coming back from the 5-minute break here also. So she's our new planner one, and we're really excited to have her on our coastal planning team. She's here tonight to see how, a well-run meeting, CAC meeting goes, because one day, she'll likely be a liaison similar to what I do. So Monse, do you want to say hi?
Hi everyone. Yeah, I'm really excited. I think tomorrow it's like officially my first month working for the county. Originally I was an intern with the city of Slow, but yeah, I'm really excited.
Thank you for being here and congratulations. And yeah, don't judge us based off of this meeting. Things went awry with the highway patrol. We're gonna rein it back in if you rejoin. But yeah, so nice to meet you and thank you for being here. And yeah, Dane, thank you
all for being welcoming. Another quick update. I know a lot of you are aware, but the Coastal Commission reviewed the Przbanski appeal for the Sherwood property. The staff report is on their website. I encourage everyone to take a look at it. Lastly, I know, Christina, you prepped a little PowerPoint for the 2 projects being reviewed today. I made sure that the permit slow pages were up to date, so you can go online on the agenda links. Anyone can view right now if you want, and look at both of the projects are on information hold. For those of you who don't know, an information hold essentially means there's a laundry list of items, planning items that need to be completed prior to the project being processed. So maybe before if there are concerns, I don't know, there may not be any concerns about the projects, but definitely take a look at those letters if you have any concerns. So I'll let you take it away from here, and then I'm totally open to answer any questions anyone may have during land use. I'll probably hop off the meeting after that. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Okay, couple things. Dane is here as our coastal planner, but he's not here to advocate for a project. So just to make that clear, I don't know, our presentation doesn't have like necessarily so many concerns as much as more the items for clarification, which are pretty consistent with some of the items in your info hold. So I think, and you can, obviously weigh in, but when there are projects like this that kind of have so many unknowns in this period, and I know it's beneficial for us to like weigh in and weigh in and weigh in, but I just don't want it to feel like we're giving you nothing, because a lot of it's kind of like clarification on this, clarification on that. But I do want to take a vote just so the council, if we still have a quorum, and Karen, you can advise on that. But yeah, so the council's all on the same page with like what we're kind of going back to you. Okay.
I really appreciate that. And when we send out the referrals, I think it notes 60 days is the expected response. The sooner the better, because as folks get further down in the planning process, changes not only become more expensive, but a lot of these residential projects, the applicants become married to their project and they want to have it a certain way, which is really understandable. So thanks for bringing that up.
Okay, cool. And then
we still have a quorum.
Yes. Okay, cool. And Dane brought up Coastal Commission. I mean, it's no secret here. Obviously, I'll report back to the community when I get an answer as to why the required standards were not required for this project. So I'll be still looking for an answer on that. And then I'll report back when I have an answer for people. But until then, oops, Karen's hand's up.
even though you don't have an answer, do you know how many letters were written from the community to the Coastal Commission about the Sherwood project?
I don't know exactly because more letters kept coming in after the deadline for what was included in the actual report. I know the report contained somewhere between like 60 and 65. And 3 were in opposition to the appeal. And the remainder were in support for good reason because we were basing our appeal on policy. So yeah, that's that's where we're
So
at.
there were probably a lot, but you don't know the number.
Well, yes, I don't know the final number because I only have the number of what was actually reported in by that Friday deadline. I know a lot of people, submitted stuff over the weekend and through the beginning of that week, but I only had visibility into what was actually made public.
I just think it would be interesting to know because there certainly was lots of back and forth on the socials. And I'm curious about how many people were moved to do something rather than hold forth on the socials.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know that there was over 100 and some pages of public comment as of that Friday prior to the
Okay.
event. So,
All right.
which
Thanks.
is big for Cambria. It's like, the biggest thing prior to this was like the Christmas market and there were like 10 people talking about it. So, if it's any indicator of kind of where we're headed, hopefully people will be more active with their concerns.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Brian. Oh, you're muted.
I had a comment about the Coastal Commission appeal. Both Christina and Jeff Lentz's presentations were outstanding, but ineffective in the sense that they voted against us. But both presentations were I thought outstanding.
Thank you,
That's
Brian.
it.
Yeah, unfortunately, we had our NCAC version of a visual analysis because the applicant was not required to do a visual analysis contrary to the law, the standards that are provided in our local coastal program. But that I provided it to each commissioner. However, the digital version, I think, wasn't going through while I was talking. The guy came up to me afterwards. So I'll make that available on our website just for people who are interested. Yeah, so thank you. We tried and like I said, it's a loss for us and it's a loss for Cambria, but I think the important thing is that we understand and we can help the community understand why these specific standards that aren't discretionary are not being required of some applicants. And so I think that's really an important thing for us to understand. So I hope that somebody at county planning and coastal planning can get us an answer on that, because a loss is a loss and that's fine. But I think what's important for our future is understanding, are these standards being required across the board or not, So, okay, thank you, Brian. Oops, and my dog's riled up. So Harry, go ahead and I'll mute.
I'll just make this real quick. I was speaking with someone just prior to the discussion, well, early in the morning, prior to the discussion of the Sherwood property, and they told me somewhat like what you said, that there were 60 letters of concern that were submitted to the commission, and 57 were favorable toward keeping the property, and 3 were negative. And I think what troubled me, and I probably shouldn't get into this, that the staff were somewhat dismissive of the fact that the Warren Leopold house, they couldn't give it any, how could you say it? They couldn't understand how much we as a community appreciate the history of this town and what this little home right there on Sherwood contributed to in a very beneficial manner to the quality of life here in Cambria. And they were more being, how could I say it, affirming of this new property that was going to be built that would actually be more advantageous to the community. And I'm thinking, it's like they had no connection with the soul of Cambria. And I think that troubled me as much as anything. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Harry. I think just to be clear, since part of our concern as the NCAC was getting bucketed and or dismissed in this conversation around like, well, it's not a historic structure and all they care about is preserving this little cottage, when really at the end of the day, sure, people love the cottage and people love Leopold, but we were looking at specific standards that exist in our area plan that most of us are held to when we want to do something at our properties that other people aren't being held to when they want to do something on theirs. So I'm with you. And I think that there's a larger conversation that needs to be had around community character and how to preserve that. I don't think as Cambrians, we did the work on the front end to preserve that in a way where it's recognized, you know, right? Standards are recognized at the state level, historically. But to your point, while that was dismissed because it wasn't rooted in fact, I feel like there was a lot of things that were inserted that were opinion, and that's not how the process is supposed to work. So thank you, Harry. Jacqueline, want to go on?
Yeah, just to encourage everybody is to me, I know Christina, you and many others put a lot of effort into this, but I'd encourage you not to look at it as a loss. What it is part of our continuing education of what it's going to take to have our views heard and respected in a better way. And I think, just picking one of the thin things in the historical area, there's a whole structure for that house was never put on a register. These agencies, be it the county or coastal commission, they have very structured ways of looking at things. And that house, because it wasn't on any registers, didn't get the treatment that we might have liked to have seen. So I think going forward, we need to look at, are there other Leopold-like houses in the community or buildings? It doesn't have to be a house. Features of Cambria that we want preserved, and then work to get it in the proper structure so that when it does get heard, when proposals to change it or affect it are contemplated, it gets better consideration. So it's really important to not get lost, I think, in, well, we lost this and the county didn't care. I don't really think that's the way the process works. If we want to be effective, like Christina mentioned, we need to get ahead of it in a better way. And I think this is just a tool for getting us there. Learn some lessons, learn some perspective on how the county and coastal commission are going to look at things. My take reading their staff report is they didn't really care about the house or the trees, or to them, it was just about moving it further from the bluff so there's less damage in a storm, and not impacting the bluff with putting new revetments or improvements. So, you have to respect the statewide perspective that they look at it from. At the county level, it was more about how the county interpreted the codes and applied them that seemed to be maybe not the way we'd like to see it done. And I think we need to work to that end.
I think though, and this is, I'm very grateful that we're having an opportunity to work with Dane, because I think you've been pushing this in terms of feedback early and getting really clear, often on the front end. And I think two things. So yes, sure. Let's put the Leopold thing aside. Fine. Like I've been with everybody on the fact we didn't do what we needed to do as a community early enough to have that designated a historic structure. I'm all about facts, fair game, fine, can't be preserved. However, I think that on the county's end, there were so many little things that were happening with this project that we were trying to be accountable to all of those things within the area plan. And that at a certain point, we got bucketed with all these little things. And then this historic structure that's not really historic, but it's historic to the community. And then you just kind of look like people who are complaining about nothing. And it's like, well, what are these people complaining about? There's just a bunch of stuff going on. They don't really know what they're talking about. And the issue is that the county said that Windsor Boulevard is only a view corridor going north and south. And that's why there wasn't a visual analysis required. Then it got to the Coastal Commission. And if you notice in the Coastal Commission staff report, it says the county misinterpreted that and that the view corridor goes north, south, east, and west. And then instead of requiring a visual analysis and making a substantial issue determination based off of evidence, coastal staff said, but we don't think there's a problem here. And typically, back in the day, Coastal Commission, a substantial issue determination would be decided on the fact that the county was required to request a visual analysis based off of this location in a visual corridor, a scenic view corridor, and that didn't happen. So we need to take this over, make sure an analysis happens, and move forward from that perspective. But coastal staff just said, sure, it's a scenic view corridor. The county didn't request it, and we don't think there's a problem. And that's where it's kind of like, well, how do we, you know, and so Jeff Bloom, I would ask you, like, how do we, how do we avoid that going forward? Because it's kind of like we got, sidelined at the county level, and then it got to the coastal level where it would have been something that would have been cleaned up like 5 years ago. But now here we are. And
yeah, I think part of the answer to that is nothing is static, nothing stays the same. So the fact that the Coastal Commission might have looked at something a particular way 10 years ago or 5 years ago doesn't mean that's the way they're going to look at it today. Similarly with the county, it's about how these codes are interpreted and how much liberal license they use in that interpretation can really radically alter the outcome. So, you know, our starting point really, in my mind, is and has been, we need to work with the county on how these visual corridors are really assessed so that at the get-go, we're not trying to fight a battle of proving why it should be a concern, that it's already, by the way they interpret the codes, going the direction we want it to go. So it's, but you can't get caught up in, especially right now, because like there have been a couple things, you know, they had the inverse condemnation suits with Bookout that they lost in the federal court. So their appetite may not be as good to say no as it might have been 6 months ago, before that, for fear of getting embroiled in another one. And they had that as a closed session item still, probably to talk about whether they were going to appeal it or not. But those color how they respond and what they put their priority on. So what we need to do is back up and understand, well, what is the perspective and what is the priority? So maybe through Dane and the planning staff, we can get some clarification. Well, how do you guys really look at these cases and what is important to the county at the moment? And then we might agree or disagree about whether that should be the right answer and work on that. Because in the end, it's being done on our behalf. So, you know, but there's structure to it. That there's the coastal plan, there's the county's general plan that often gets forgotten. As I've mentioned to you, when there's a lot of turnover of staff, a lot of the corporate history is lost. And so people just look literally at what's put in front of them. And with the demands of a high workload, they just move on. And maybe it doesn't get the consideration we'd all like to see it get. So I just think we need to back up a little, figure out some ways to tackle it, and then go forward.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Yeah, I think it's an interesting situation because it's like a hot potato, right? Like nobody wants to get sued. And I'm sure Matthew can speak to this at a CCSD level, but it's kind of like, the supervisors are like, sounds like a good case for the Coastal Commission. And the Coastal Commission's like, well, we're not going there anymore because we don't want to get sued. And then we're a community that's really defined by our scenic value. And we're kind of like, well, so what are we supposed to do? So
we need to work on understanding how these agencies interpret the coastal plan and what it means to them today. Not even what it meant to them 4 or 5 years ago when it last got updated.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The world around us is changing at such a rapid rate that and the community's still changing. I mean, I kind of marvel at every day on my street there's construction going on, little bits here and there that are gradually changing how things look, and some of them are code required, some of them are not. The perspective's got to be, where do we want it to go? Kind of a forward-looking view, and then what does it take to get to that outcome? And then get the buy-in from the different agencies that we want to work on our behalf to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tall order, but we're here for it. So thank you, Jeff. Ed, did you have something?
Well, yeah, I mean, my support for the appeal was, of course, based on what you guys had put down, but also the thing that concerns me and kind of segues in off of Jeff is that, we're missing consistency here. Most of the people here are aware of a battle that I had for over a year with the planning department, and never came to any kind of a satisfactory explanation of setback code on the project that I was brought to the fore for a whole year. And my feeling was that we need consistency. Is it code? Is it not code? Is it, what are the actual parameters, and how do we get everybody operating to follow their own codes? And that did not happen in my case. And as far as I am concerned, there is no front setback code in the town of Cambria anymore. I mean, that the precedent has been set, and or unset, I guess. And that was the main concern that I had with this, and it is an ongoing concern. And I totally agree with Jeff, and I totally agree with you on this subject. And that's about all I have to say.
One thing to emphasize, Ted, is there are people behind all of these codes. So we've got the staff planners, we've got ourselves, the community. Each person's going to have their view of how that code is read and interpreted, or whether it's even important, based on their perspective, their professional perspective. Our goal ought to be to try to bring them all to the center where we want it to be.
Yeah.
Hold on, wait a second. I'm with you for the most part. You have me like 80%, but there are things in our area plan and Title 23, we're talking about, it is so specific. There is it's not discretionary when we talk about view corridors. You can catch me on the SRA, and maybe that's a bluff face and whatever. But if there is a designated view corridor, it's not discretionary. A visual analysis is required. So I'm with you, Jeff, and you know me, I'm willing to do the work to herd the cats of the community to try to figure out what's important and how we get ahead of this for going forward. But I don't want to minimize the fact that there are very specific requirements and standards that are mandatory that are being skipped over only for some people. That's That's the problem. It's only for some people. I mean, it's how many people do we see that are building a deck around a tree because they can't get it removed? Or Sandra and Sam did more studies than the Sherwood property, and they're just trying to do a bocce ball court and a barbecue. And so I'm with you 80%, but I do think we can't, I don't want to bucket it all together just as all the work needs to be on us, because A, we're volunteers, and B, our tax dollars were spent on making these certified area plans the standard and the requirement. So why are they only applying to some people? And if they're not going to apply here, then tell us why. Tell me why this is a standard and why it doesn't apply. That's my thing. And so anyways, thank you. And sorry to interrupt you, Ted, but Matthew.
No, it's fine. We can move on. I mean, no, I totally agree with what you're saying. I mean, in my case, I just got dismissed out of hand. It was, we're done. Get out of here. I'm not answering your question. And that is unacceptable going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Matthew, you want to, and I swear I'm just gonna, we'll get out of here. And I see Karen's face. I'll keep moving. Matthew, you want to go?
Yeah, I'll make it quick. And it's kind of a weird position to be in as one of the bureaucratic cogs in the machine that is government. But I think there's some great points that have been brought up by Jeff and you and everybody else, is that there's navigating of the bureaucracy that is occurring, whether it be at the Coastal Commission or the county level. And there's incredible amounts of pressure that is coming from the top of the state of California that I imagine, and I'm speculating, that is trickling down from the top. And so these commissioners are appointed. I think staff may be facing some pressure, as I face pressure from the community and from a strategic planning level. So I think in a way, Jeff is on the right track in terms of trying to find this balance in terms of where they're going with this, because there's change politically all the time, and Christina knows this from, some of the things that were shared at the Coastal Commission level and just the change in tone. And we've been facing it as a CCSD as we move forward with our water reclamation facility. Be for it, be against it. We have to navigate those political realms. So I think you guys are doing what you need to do, and I think that conversation needs to be had at the NCAC level and navigate where this is going, because these are appointed commissioners that are facing pressure from who appoints them. And that also guides staff, just like the board guides me. So I think you guys are on the right track, and you're trying to navigate this bureaucratic piece of the Coastal Commission that may be having some sort of philosophical shift. And I'm not saying you're wrong in your take whatsoever. But as Jeff said, and I thought he said it fairly well, we got to figure out a way to navigate this to find the direction that they're going. Much like I have to find the direction that my board is going in terms of our strategic plan and the things that we have to navigate. And we work with the county, and we're working with the Coastal Commission. So it's bureaucracy at its finest, and I know that sounds cliche, but these are the things that we have to navigate as a community, right? And I think you guys are holding the line, and I think you guys need to continue to hold the line. And as Jeff said, yeah, it's a loss right now, but I do think it's a learning opportunity for us to move forward as a community, and I don't have any stake in land. I don't have much say in land use. That's one of the downsides of being a CSD is I don't have a lot of say in the land use piece of it. But I think you guys are on the right track, and I think there's a lot of navigation and soul searching to move forward to figure out how we land on your land use plan, the laws that are put in place, and how they're navigating those. And I think, in my opinion, keep a stiff upper lip, keep fighting, you know what I mean? And keep doing what you guys do. Because I was there when Christina had a conversation with Kevin Kahn, and he applauded her. He said, "You guys make our job worthwhile. You guys are why we're here." So even though we take it as a loss in terms of this case, I think they value you guys quite a bit. And so while it may be a loss on this incident, there's still more work to be done, and there's a lot more navigation to be done, and there's there's some things that we have to deal with from the top that's coming down, and we'll have to, as a community, we have to figure that out. So that's my piece.
Thank you, Matthew. Appreciate it. Yeah. So, okay. Well, much ado, much to think about. We will, and sorry, Dane, but we'll get into it right now. We're going to do this quick. Land use. I think everybody, for the most part, I hope, has had a chance to look it over. I see Karen sighing. Are you able, will you help me pull my land use up? And let's see. Okay, so we have 2 referrals going on. And mostly I'm going to be asking for a vote on the items of clarification, because I think that those kind of speak to our concerns in general, just as a NCAC in terms of development and changes. Both of these projects are on info hold, so that's why there's so many questions. But I just very much appreciate Dane, sticking to wanting feedback on this front end, while changes could be, interpreted or made based off of our feedback. So whoever knows where that ends up, but here we go. So first one, 2790 Wilton Drive. Construction and a remodel to an existing, and why you see the square feet being 400 to 686 is there's some question as to the permitting on the structure that brings it from 400 to 686 square feet, and if that's like a legal structure or not. Anyways, essentially, they want to move the laundry room from one of the structures into what would be the new structure, and then create a garage and an additional structure and decking. So this is a 0.45 acre lot. Parcels were merged. There are trees for removal, and that's still unclear, and you'll see more as we kind of go through. So if we can just click to the next slide. Okay, that's just an overview, so you get an idea of the site. And then the next slide, same thing. And I'm just pulling some of this stuff from the report. Okay, so that's a better view that hopefully will help you, because in the next view you'll see essentially, next slide. So what they're looking to do is basically mirror what is already existing. Okay, and then if everybody had a chance to look at that, here are the proposed floor plans. White, well, for the most part, white is what's existing, except for that kind of shaded gray. So on the left is what's existing, on the right is what's proposed. And then next slide. Okay, so had the opportunity to work through this with Ted, and thank you, Jeff Bloom, for our next one. But essentially there's just a lot up in the air. So items for clarification. Right now, we have the clarification on the existing structures, what's permitted, what's not. I know Dane's, I believe you've reached out on this, and I can't see it because this presentation's open. If you're thumbs upping or not, Dane, but so, oh, okay. And by the way, Dane's not here as an advocate for the project, but just however you're comfortable weighing in.
Yeah, I'll just respond. I guess we can go one at a time. And if I
Okay.
don't have a response, I'll just say no response.
Okay, cool.
Clarification on existing structures classification. So the assessor's information didn't include any structures for the site. And that was done in 1978. And there was no previous building permits submitted with the application.
Okay.
What does that mean? Maybe, well, we'll see. Hopefully the applicant can find some paper building permits, at least for the main residence, I would hope. We'll see.
Okay. And then, so I think overall, and you guys can kind of look through these, but it's clarification on existing structures, because I know what's kind of being described as the garage is a laundry room, but has like a carport, and so it's just a little bit confusing. And then in terms of like if and when this does get built out, if that laundry room becomes a bedroom, but it has a water hookup, because it's not really a garage, then does it become a guest house? And so these are kind of the questions that are in here. And then detached garage, clarification on the proposed square feet. I still couldn't get an exact number on. And trees for removal, I know that'll come a little bit later with the biological report, I believe.
Christine, what?
Should I just run through all these points? What I'm
Sure.
what
Oh,
confidently
and then Jeff Bloom, do you want to go really quick?
Yeah,
before
just,
me?
and maybe you can clarify it, Dane, is how your staff determines the difference between a garage with water hookups and an actual guest house. You know, what do you use? Do you use the fact that it has a kitchen or no kitchen, or you know, is it built to the right code to be a residential structure? You know, I'm just curious how you get from what the code says to what people are actually doing, because guest houses are always kind of a slippery little devil to deal with when it becomes not just you know, I don't know, a house for a pool house or a whatever, and when does it become an actual dwelling unit?
And just for the sake of everybody knowing, because this is on info hold and because more information will be provided, it will come back to us. So we don't need to like figure all the things out tonight, but.
Right.
So thank you, Jeff. And then Dane, if you want to just hit on any of these.
Fire away.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Clarification on status of existing garage plus laundry room. Like I mentioned, I haven't seen a building permit for anything on that site. If I had, based on a hunch, I mean, that house clearly looks like it's been there for a long time, so it may outdate, at least the main residence may outdate permitting requirement records. And then you'd get into non-conforming uses, chapter 9 of the coastal zone land use ordinance. Next, or any questions on that one? No. Okay.
I'm sure at this point, everybody's just going to shout out. So go ahead.
Yeah, go for it. Okay. Clarification on existing detached garage with water hookups, which will be converted to a bedroom per application. Does this technically become a guest house? I think that's the intent of land use ordinance compliance. If I were the applicant, I would label it a guest house. The residential accessory structures code in Title 23, it's in the special use standards, describes how a guest house can be designed. There are situations where guest houses have sinks, but I believe it's stated not designed as to accommodate. So if it's an as-built structure, it's kind of a gray area. A garage per building code is not insulated. There's other building code differences between a garage and a habitable room. There's building code differences between a bedroom, excuse me. There's differences between a bedroom and a living room in terms of building code. I can't really speak on building code requirements. So I'll just proceed. Will this existing detached garage / laundry room be brought into compliance with current code? Yes, it will. Clarification on proposed square foot of addition. Since we don't have any record of a previous building permit or assessor's records, which is basically what your taxes are based on, your property taxes. Since we don't have information on the existing structure size, I don't have a clear answer. That'll be also depending on if that building in the front yard is gonna remain a part of this project. Clarification on the number of trees for removal. On the info hold letter, you will all see a request for a biological resources assessment. When a designer submits a landscape plan with tree removal, Normally I take it with a grain of salt, and I'm waiting for the actual vegetation map from the biologist to determine tree removal, number of trees removed, trees impacted, and then recommendations to comply with CEQA, North Coast Area Plan, and local coastal plan policies, and requesting project re-review. Noted, when the applicant resubmits, I'll send outreach and email. I'm open to questions.
Dane. Oh, there you go, Karen.
Dane, how long do the people asking for the permit have to get you this information?
The letter says to resubmit within 90 days, or else county staff would start a withdrawal process, but normally we would just reach out
to
the
them
applicant.
and
Yeah, so essentially it's unlimited amount of time
okay.
when they get around to it. I mean, some of these requests are costly, so sometimes it takes longer than 3 months.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Dane. Thanks, Karen. Kermit, go ahead.
I'm just question of fire codes. What's the exterior of all this to be, as well as is there a lot of wood decks? It's a highly forested canyon type thing with you know, once you start a fire in there, that thing blows right up through. And
Got it.
a lot of those houses are wood. I would assume almost all of them because I've seen them. So how does this one fit in? Is there any fire code that gives guidance to this? Does it get flown by the fire department?
It does get flown by fire, if you will. When the project is referred to the North Coast Advisory Council, it's also referred to Cambria CSD in this case. And they, per Title 23, would be required to do a fire safety plan for this project, and whatever recommendations that the fire professional recommends would be implemented as conditions of approval. If that's some special sighting or, you know, fire turnaround widths, things of that nature, they would be available on the permits law website for viewing. Jeff?
Yes, so Dane, the other thing would be that the building codes have been so substantially changed that building and safety will probably have something to say about how the structure's remodeled from a fire standpoint. The other thing is just to understand, does the county have paper records that date earlier than the 70s, and they just haven't been scanned yet? They're in a warehouse somewhere that you have to try to get them? Or
from my experience, we can guarantee electronic records to 2017. They'd usually exist to, I think, 1997. And then it would be paper records existing in our basement thereafter and microfiche.
But
we have a records management team that is in charge of management of the paper records. So if you ever want to obtain a paper record, anyone can submit a Public Records Act request, and I can send Christina the link after or put it in the chat.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking for your purposes, if you're trying to establish what was legal and what wasn't, in my experience, those older paper records will often give you a lot of clues, because in the good old days, the assessors actually sent people out and they looked at it and they wrote down notes about what they saw, and those are all in those paper records that predate scanning and your computerized records that you use now.
Yeah.
We will definitely do a Public Records Act request of our own. You're right. Absolutely right.
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, and believe it or not, the CCSD, you know, I filed many a public records request, and the CCSD is amazing at theirs. And yeah, they pulled documents, like they had like old, like handwritten notes from the old general manager, like 60 years ago or something, and one of mine. So it's always a treasure trove to kind of uncover, what's there. And it was actually interesting. And the dude was like, you need to ask the Coastal Commission, but it was like, yeah, right around when our area plans were being certified. So it's always, if you want to nerd out, a very interesting thing. So, all right. Thank you, Jeff. Let me see. Am I missing hands? I don't think so. But essentially this this application's in its early stages. I feel like we've identified, what, kind of the points of not even concern, but just, gaps in information are we fine as a council? Like, I would entertain a motion to just vote on the information, and if we could go back a slide, the items for clarification, and then that way at least Dane knows what's top of our mind. Are we good with doing that? And if so, can somebody make a motion?
I'd make that motion, Christine.
Thank you, Jeff. And do I have a second here?
I'll second it.
Okay, was that Kermit or was that Brian? Okay,
Brian.
thank you, Brian. And then any negatives, and please speak up if there's anybody that has a concern just in looking at this, like happy to have that conversation too. Okay.
So what is the motion?
That's what I wanted to ask. Thank you, whoever said that.
The motion is approving the NCAC items for clarification that are on, I hope are on your screen right now.
Yes, yes. Okay. All right. Thank you.
So I can maybe, just so this is clear, so your council's opinion is super clear when it goes into the staff report.
And Jane, I will do the thing for you, like the thing that we learned at the meeting, and do it through the system if that's the most.
Sure, yeah. I mean, as long as you feel that's, the opinion of this project going forward.
Oh, no. Okay, no, then tell us what you go.
Dane,
I would say
Dane, just don't interpret it as this is our approval if they fix these things or address them. This is just things we think you should clarify in your information hold.
Okay, I'll call them concerns.
Yeah.
I'll call them all noted concerns at the August 20th meeting related to, and then I'll state those listed here.
Based on the information we currently have.
Yeah,
and then I can take these minutes too.
So for my comments on information holds, this would be your response to the information hold saying this is what you would like to see responded to. Is that the way I'm interpreting it?
Right.
Yes. Yeah. And
I don't want anybody to think that the motion is somehow recommending approval of this project. We're just saying, hey, clarify this stuff first, and then we'll decide.
Well, the last item on the sheet says requesting project re-review.
Yeah.
So that makes it pretty clear.
Yes, and this is, I mean, really one of our first times kind of going through it at this early of a stage, because I think oftentimes we've just kind of either skipped over it or waited until later. So Dane, if there's a way that we can do it better, let this just serve as our learning experience.
I actually really appreciate the comments from both Jeff and Brian right there. I think maybe the best motion here, and it's your council's motion to make, would just be requesting a re-review upon resubmittal.
Okay, but is it
no comments on the minutes or however you feel?
So wait, so are these comments then not helpful to you at this stage in the process?
They certainly are.
Okay.
I'll include them in the staff report, and then there'll be another section when, NCAC re-review.
Cool. Okay, cool. Then is everybody clear? We are making, Jeff Bloom has made a motion to approve the items for clarification. Dane will do what he will or won't with those. And we are at the bottom of that. It's requesting project re-review. And so that's kind of the next step. Is that okay? And Brian has seconded. And then is there anybody? I see Jen. We will see this again for a final vote, correct? Yes, Jen, we will. And that will be for the recommendation of the project at the NCAC level.
Roger that. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I'm going through here. Okay, so we don't have any negatives. I am not seeing any hands. And Karen, you want to let me know, do you want to do a person by person vote or?
I don't think so. I can only see 6 people right now. If you can see other people and you didn't get any negatives, I think we're safe to say it's approved.
Okay. Okay, cool. No, I just scrolled through everybody. Okay, perfect. All right, moving on, 2190 Emmons Road. I know that application, something I saw was like 2,200. I'm not really sure. Somewhere between 2190 and 2,200 lies this. So we're talking about a demolition and a rebuild. The demolition is of a 1,000, 11, 13 square foot single family residence that you see pictured. That would allow for the construction of a new 3-story, 3,387 square foot single family residence. With a detached 324 square foot guest house, attached 516 square foot this isn't a joke, is somebody laughing? 2-car garage, and 1,132 square feet of deck areas. This project requires the use of transfer development credits, which Dane and I have been kind of just trying to understand, or I've been trying to understand on our behalf. And the amount being used is currently unspecified. This is again a 0.31 acre parcel that is that size because it was merged with other parcels. And there's one pine tree for removal. And we can go, and by the way, this is up in our agenda, and all these links click through. So if you see that number up on the top, you can always click through. That's the site. And then let's see what else we have. This is a perspective from Emmons Road of the proposed structure. You see, I have a couple more here from the application, different elevations. And then, and if anybody needs us to stop, we can. And so again, you'll see in gray the proposed structure. Obviously, there's nothing white remaining because it's a demolition and a rebuild. It's not just an addition. I guess this like tea house guest house is not in gray, but that's what you see kind of dipping into the setback there at the bottom. Do I have another image of this? Okay, next slide. Okay, so on this project, I know a few of you guys have had a chance to review this more thoroughly than others. Items for clarification. Again, this is on info hold, early stage. We're talking about proposed versus allowable square feet just in general within this site. If TDCs were off the table, what would be allowed, right? And what's being proposed, which I think we're still not certain on. And Dane, you'll correct me as I run through these. Clarification on transfer of development credits, what that, is there a cap or is it this kind of exponential increase based off of the square footage of the site? Clarification on number of bedrooms and bathrooms. I did go through the floor plans. I think Ted and I went through those pretty thoroughly earlier. It looks like 3 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms, but then there's an outdoor shower and maybe something in the tea house. So it's a little confusing, and I feel like going forward, it just would be amazing to see those in writing. Like, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to have 4 bedrooms and this amount of bathrooms, as opposed to this, like, you know, where's Waldo of showers and faucets. Biggest concern, I don't even think we can pretend anymore, just based off of the types of applications that are coming through. Massing, and then massing on a slope. It does appear as though the architect has done some of that, like the height, and then you're doing the 6 feet in to kind of distribute this massing. I think the kind of question is, how does that interact with the intention of the transfer of development credits and how they play with consistency of character on that block. So consideration. Similar question, guest house, tea house, outdoor shower, classification and use, you know, can in a year from now, the tea house become a this and all of a sudden there's a vacation rental license, and how do we manage that as a community? I've noted that the tea house, guest house is kind of dipping into the setback. I did see in the area plans that the architectural features are allowed to do that. I don't know if that only pertains to a primary structure or if it also applies to secondary structures. And again, we are requesting a re-review because this is in super early stages. So I don't know, do we rattle through the questions and then Dane, you can just give us a once off and we can vote, or do you want to speak to some of these before the questions?
I'd like to treat this one similarly to last one. I'll provide my piece. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and then if your council wants to make a motion, go crazy.
Perfect. Okay,
So,
thank you.
clarification on proposed versus allowable square feet prior to TDC. I don't think there's enough information, and if you pan back to the floor plans, I'll show you all what I'm talking about. I don't think there's even enough information to calculate the actual floor area of the proposed structure, because the outline of the actual floor isn't present for every single story from what it seems to me. So I'll need an updated floor plan before I can even make a clear recommendation on the actual size of the proposed structure. And the size of the proposed structure is clearly going to be reviewed against all those design requirements and the single family standards of the North Coast Area Plan. More North Coast Area Plan stuff.
Hey, Dane, explain what, because I don't think most of the group's going to know what a transfer of development credits is.
Yeah, so transfer of development credits, there are multiple transfer of development credit programs. Everyone be aware. There is the one we're referring to now, which is the Cambria Development Transfer TDC program for short, I'll just call it. And essentially the intent of this one is to preserve pine trees in mainly the Lodge Hill neighborhood. And oh my gosh, I'm slipping the name of the other protected neighborhood noted in North Coast Area Plan. Thank you. The intent is to preserve vegetation. And the way that's done is you can basically buy credits if your lot qualifies from the Land Conservancy SLO, who then enter properties into open space easement for in perpetuity is the idea. So that's the intent of it. I'm still learning a little bit. Let's hear it.
I've looked at some of your emails, and I had always thought that there was a limit on the number of TDCs you could get for a development, either a new development or a renovation. And it sounds like in this case, we don't know what the number of TDCs are going to be at the end.
I think Dane's looking into that. Yeah.
I think for this property, the amount of technically allowable TDCs is probably pretty high, because the owner here has merged 7 lots, and the TDC allowable usage is based on a proportion of the property size, similarly to many of the other design standards. So merging 7 lots per the North Coast Area Plan does allow you to have a bigger house. I will just say that. TDCs, there is a maximum. I think I sent out an email to outreach earlier. I'm sure that can be shared with anyone. The applicant has bought 682. They already purchased them and made reservation.
From owners that are in the area of Lodge Hill and wherever else you would mention.
Or from the
they bought them from the Land Conservancy, and the Land Conservancy actually manages the program. It's not a county program.
Yeah.
But I do, okay, so I guess we can go on about the TDCs. I think that there's like a clarification or a conversation that needs to be had just in terms of that. Because I've never, and I went back, like, at least since I moved here, like historically, to look at the number of, and I haven't seen a development approved with TDCs that exceeds that, what we interpreted as the cap. And so I would just ask for us to really hone into that, so we don't end up in another like view corridor situation where we feel one way and something is the other. But we don't have to hash that out tonight. And so thank you, Brian, and Kermit, go ahead.
Okay, can I go back to the original house picture?
Of the existing structure.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's good enough.
Oh, this is the proposed structure. Do you want this or do you want?
That
the
one.
Okay.
That's, I'm making a comment.
Uh-huh.
More than on this particular house, so it pertains to this. This is an urban looking house. Remember the one that is on the Sherman Drive? That's an urban looking structure.
Mhm.
When I built in 2013 a crummy garage on a lot in Sedona I had because I didn't have anything else I wanted to do and I wanted to keep a development credit there. So I built it and I didn't have enough roof corners. They said, we don't do flat roofs. We do flat roofs, but you need several different sections of roof and so forth. They had a set of codes. They had colors. They had shapes. They wanted to define Sedona. We're defining Los Angeles right here. That was the problem with the previous house on Sherman, although we could see it coming, but no one liked it. We don't have a building code that fits our community, that we can say, this doesn't look like it. And this is one of those things where if you want to say there's a visual study needs to be done, it should be said, does this fit the motif of Cambria? Does it fit the downtown area? Does it fit the one of the houses we want to see built in the area? We are probably barking at the wrong thing, jousting at the wrong thing every time we see one of these things come in because we know we don't like it. It's replacing a little hippie shop of 3 stories, which I'd be afraid to live in now too. But I don't want to live in this and I don't want to see it next door to me. So the question is, shouldn't we be defining what we want Cambria to be? And this is something I don't know if we have the power to do it. Although if we're supposed to be representing the community and we want these type of things, we don't like this building, at least I don't mind the building if it's in Los Angeles or someplace like this. I don't like this building if it's here. It's not that bad building. It just doesn't fit our area.
Kermit, that is very well stated. The problem is you're talking to the choir. We need we need building codes that we don't have here.
Well, I don't know.
Then how do we do that? How do we do that?
Well, I think this is a larger conversation that, and Jeff Bloom is nodding because I'll rattle his ear off about this, but it's funny because in a lot of the research I was doing for the Coastal Commission hearing, there were like documents from, I don't know, whatever, 10, 15 years ago that were like the North Coast Advisory Council is working on a community design plan. And then it's like the North Coast Advisory Council has stopped working on the community design plan because there were too many opinions. And so I think like if you really wanted to like hone in on specifics in terms of design, that's a whole different ball game where there's like community meetings, community buy, like really community, like in real life, not like on the computer, the nitty gritty. But I think that our area plans as they exist right now, which is all we have to work off of for these projects, are fairly clear in terms of defining what makes Cambria and defining how to break up massing within a structure and making sure it's compatible with another structure. I think it can be argued either way, right? Like we kind of see the TDCs as this, like it says maximum shall not exceed 400 transfer development square feet, right? And then the county might see it as like, well, but it's proportional based off of this, and we see cap and they see exponential. And so I think it's what we're doing right now. What we're doing right now is what we can do right now in terms of having these conversations. If we wanted to be more clear about what Cambria is and what our scenic resources are and what that character is, that would take a different level of commitment that I hope people have, but I don't know that everybody has in terms of hosting those meetings
Well,
and something on the.
I guess I would like to continue this discussion with Blake next time rather, on how we define, because the materials, the character of the materials, the color, the shapes of the structures that they stick out. I know it's a free world, but when I go to Sedona, they tell me exactly what they're going to do, what I can do, and the colors and the so forth. And frankly, I appreciate that because the town at least looks like Sedona, and we're like Los Angeles. And
But we can't expect that to happen without having the community do the work. So I just want to be clear on that. That exists because a community did the work to advocate for that.
Yep.
So
Isn't that what we're supposed to do?
well, we are, but we need more people to do the work. So, okay.
Yes, we do. So
I'm with you, and I'll follow up with you on that. And then Jeff Bloom, your hands up, and I'm going to give Dane like an 8:30 cutoff, or he's never coming back. So,
all right, I don't need to.
Oh, my question's real simple one. Just how, if you can cover even at next meeting, my understanding was the Coastal Act was exempted from the state's ADU requirement. So I'm curious how the county, like a building like this, how are you going to make sure it doesn't become an accessory dwelling unit?
Well, I guess that's a tricky one, right? So I get is it going to be a proactive or retroactive? Is the applicant, they're adults, they can make their own decisions. Are they going to use it as an ADU? I'm sure a lot of you know ADUs are not allowed in Cambria due to the water resource constraints. Then you could potentially fall into a code enforcement sort of ballpark for the project. Or this one's proposed as a tea house. Is the applicant, gonna go drink tea? Really, I have to do as objective of a job as I can with the plans I have. So when you guys make comments, it really
No, I'm not asking you to read their minds. I'm asking you what you, the county, are going to do to make sure that a brand newly constructed building doesn't morph into an ADU. And I think the answer you need to be looking for is what conditions can you place on the approval, and what can you record against the property that makes it clear that it isn't a legal ADU?
Well, I guess the guest house standards I would reference as a start. I appreciate the suggestion too. Definitely, this project will be conditioned as such, but some of the notable ones are in the accessory use standards. SAM electrical meter, regulates the kitchen facilities and the size of the structure too. It's smaller than what an ADU would be.
I'm not asking you to answer it tonight, Dane. I'm just asking the question, how are you going to address it? Because that would be my concern. The fact they want to build a tea house, okay, fine, I don't care. But how are you going to prevent it from becoming an ADU? Until the law changes and says an ADU is possible in Cambria, which it may someday.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Jeff. And I feel like even the vacation rental licenses are tied to an APN, and it's not specific structure, and it's this whole thing. I'm dealing with it on my block, as most people know, and it's just kind of like it's a slippery slope. And you were bringing this up about the other Leopold house that was going to have another house over on Lambton, like 6 or 8 months ago. And I think everybody on the council was kind of like, okay, what's he going on about? And now we're seeing it in real life kind of play out. So I think it's a valuable question. I don't know if it's necessarily like directed at Dane, but in terms of like enforcement, and Matthew and I have gone back and forth about this a lot on a CCSD level where, okay, but there's water. And so is there a different water meter? And all of a sudden somebody's renting this, but the main house is an Airbnb, and there's all this and the applications for 8 occupants, where our average occupancy is like 2.5 people in Cambria. And so I think that there's like a lot of questions that are to be had, but yeah, I don't know that it's tough. I don't know that Dane's gonna be able to enforce.
Oh, no, Dane has lots of tools at his disposal. He's got to go work with his peers in the department and decide how they're going to apply them.
Yes.
Because if you're going to get these over and over again in a community where ADUs are not allowed because of the state law, then you got to come up with an answer how to prevent people from backdooring them as they construct new construction.
Well, totally. I mean, as you saw in the one before, it's kind of like this garage is kind of a carport, but then it's a laundry room, and all of a sudden it's a bedroom, and next thing you know, it's like the hottest thing on Airbnb. And so it's like, how do we, and it's Dane and it's the CCSD that needs to be looking at, like, okay, really water use and, well, not you, Dane, but I mean the county and CCSD in terms of, but you're bringing up the right thing. I just, for the sake of this tonight, we're really.
No, I'm not asking for an answer tonight. I'm asking the philosophical question of how are you going to address that? How are you going to, and one of our concerns should be that we are concerned about this becoming an ADU.
Yes, okay. Then we add it. I'm gonna add it to the thing that we vote on. Okay. All right, and then I see Brian and Chris, but we have like 5 minutes before I'm cutting us off for Dane to.
I just have a final thing, and it has to do with Kermit's. That picture you showed is characteristic of it's an LA house. We need to have some kind of Cambria character, and I don't know how you get that, but it's obvious that the Leopold house and this house are a long ways from Cambria character. That's it.
Okay, so I think everybody here knows that I'm with you on that. However, there are a lot of non-Cambria homes in Cambria. And so I just want to like address that honestly, that like if you go to Marine Terrace, like, and really look at it objectively, it's a little odd. And so, and it's not all Leopold houses. It's kind of this thing where people maybe, I wouldn't say took advantage of, but got things through that didn't seem consistent with the area plans. And so that's what it is. I think the question is, are we gonna determine Cambria's future based off of these existing things that we're able to pass through, because that now things are compatible, right? It's like the Leopold house that's going to get demolished and rebuilt with an LA house is compatible because the house next to it also looks ridiculous and lacks character.
But where do you stop?
Well, I know, well, exactly. So I think you start with a vision, but you also acknowledge that, like, just to be realistic, that Cambria does have a lot of very LA structures that were built prior to us all sitting here. I mean,
there are not too many that look as bad as this one.
This one looks really bad in terms, like, I'm not gonna, but there are some, I mean, I would just encourage all of us, and I think I'm saying this to my own deficit, because anybody here knows that I love this place more than anything on earth. And I want to preserve the character and I want to preserve the scenic value. But if you drive around objectively and look at what exists specifically in Marine Terrace and Park Hill, you're going to see more of this than you would like to. And so I think in order to create change, we have to be like honest about where we're at. And we can say there's a lot of ugly LA houses and we don't want that anymore. This is what we want to preserve. But I don't think we get anywhere by not being honest about where we're at right now. That's all I'm saying. So I see both sides because I want to preserve things too, but I just we have to be on, like these community, like Marine Terrace and Park Hill, it's dense and there's a lot of massing there. And Jeff, Bloom, your hands up, and then Dane's going in 3 minutes. So if you guys want
I'm done.
time wisely. Okay. Kermit, you're good?
Yes, I just noticed that Kathy Tanner made a comment here, number of meetings on residential plan incorporated into the county documents about 2003. Well, we look those up. What happened to those?
No,
And you'd be the one to do that, probably.
yeah, I'll do it. No, but I'll do it. Thank you, Kathy. Dane, do you want us to do this vote? And before you go, I definitely.
Hey, I've got no other plans tonight. My family's in San Diego. You guys take all the time you need.
Okay.
Oh,
All
still
right.
here until I
Dane,
have a
don't
land use.
say that.
I don't, because it's.
No, honestly,
I was
honestly.
not gonna-
You guys are having a good discussion. Don't let my itinerary cut it off.
Yeah, I mean, so Kathy's right. There is a residential design plan, but the problem is like we're having trouble getting actual standards enforced, right? Like that's what happened with Sherwood. That was a standard. That wasn't like Christina's opinion or Brian's opinion or whoever's opinion. It's an actual standard. Like your place is designated this, you need to do that. And that didn't happen. So when we talk about like, we're talking about the difference between shall and should. And shall isn't happening. So should is definitely not happening. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of where we're at. And I don't know how to get shall or should to happen. I don't know. I'm at a loss. I mean, I sent Karen like a page-long email about it. I don't know. What?
Well,
I'm at a
you
loss
know-
because nobody wants to get sued. The county doesn't want to get sued. Coastal Commission doesn't want to get sued. And we're like an advisory council. So open to opinions, email. Like,
Well, I guess the biggest thing I would say is that this is really a supervisor level discussion that all the coast in San Luis Obispo is trying to have a character. But we're going to be assigned houses that eventually move that away from that. I think it's a major community issue, not just
I
this,
agree.
community, but everybody. So I think we ought to bring it up with Blake. Let him do the work.
all right, we'll let Blake. Okay, all right. So do you guys, thank you for that, but do you guys want to take a vote just on the items for clarification on that project? Because I think that'll kind of help inform us as to what we need to know for an actual vote.
What's the motion, Christina?
We're approving the items for clarification, if we can bring that
Second.
back
In
up.
a project, in project review, right? Like the other house. Okay.
So yes, exactly. We're essentially approving the items on that.
Okay. Okay.
You guys wanna-
Kermit, did you move
Yes.
or second?
Yes.
Did anybody second?
Also, can I second?
Oh, I seconded it. Or did I make the motion?
That was my question. I don't know. Okay, let's start over. Somebody make a motion.
I made a motion. I make the
Okay,
motion.
I'll second. I second.
Jen, okay,
Karen.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Now I can see everybody. Is anybody opposed, or do you have any notes that we should be including in Jeff Bloom? I'm definitely including that essentially we're just concerned about this guest house or tea house or whatever becoming an ADU.
I am opposed for the reason that Kermit talked about. It's an LA house and it has no place in Cambria.
Oh, wait, we're not voting on approval for this.
No, I know, but I'm against even sending it back.
Well, we're only informing Dane as to what.
No, I'm against the project. So
But
I'm
we're
voting
not-
against the project.
Well,
But we're not voting, we're not taking a vote on the project right now.
I think you're taking a vote on the recommendations, and to me, the recommendation is
No, we're
redo
not
the
doing it.
project.
No, we're not. No,
we're
no,
not.
we're not, Brian.
So
We're just approving the items on this list for clarification.
But
And then after that.
I'm against the project.
Okay, okay.
So just from my experience as someone who has to deal with information holds, what you guys have been given is an information hold for you to respond on. And so when we, for example, we submit our project description and our application for a CDP, agencies, which you were one of, submit information hold requests that we have to respond to. What are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about this? So what you have in front of you is your information hold. And so these are your responses to the information hold. We would want to know these items to be addressed. So you basically have two different items in your agenda that are information hold items. And these are your responses to the information hold that will be given to Dane, that will be sent to the applicant to respond to.
Well,
And
we have, what we have before that is a referral for a project, and I'm against the project.
But we're not taking a vote on that because
I know you're not you're taking a vote on the referral, but I'm voting on the referral.
But we're not voting on it yet.
I know you're not. I know you're not, but I am against the referral.
Well,
okay, you feel like it's preposterous this was even like sent our way? Is that?
No, not preposterous. I think it should be turned down.
Well, okay, but if we have to operate in facts, and if we have no facts, then we can't determine that yet.
I think the fact that Kermit pointed out with the in-your-face house was enough of a fact. That's on the project. That's on the referral.
Well, you could, Brian, would you be okay with a statement as part of our comments to be sent back to them that we don't think it's appropriate architecture for Cambria?
Yeah, yeah.
Because then it's up to them.
Well, I vote against that.
Then it's up to them to decide whether they want to change it or not.
Well,
I think my position is pretty simple. I'm against the referral, period.
Okay, and then when we get to voting on that, we will include your position. But right now, we're taking a vote on the items that we need clarification on to be operating in fact and taken seriously based off of facts. So right now, we don't know anything.
I still say I'm voting no on the referral.
Is voting no.
I am voting no on the referral.
Okay.
Christina, even
doesn't matter.
Okay.
Just show them as voting no.
Yeah, it'll go ahead no matter what.
Okay. Okay. So we got that recorded.
Christina, I don't mean to interrupt you, but Karen wanted to speak. She began to speak and then went on mute. So why don't you ask Karen to unmute herself?
Oh,
she can say what she wanted to say.
Thank you, Harry. I'm sorry. I was trigger happy. I just wanted to make the point that regardless of, we understand Brian's position, and if he votes no on this motion, regardless of whether it's the one we should be voting on,
right,
it's still going to pass. So we still passed the motion to approve the items of clarification. And we never note in the meetings who votes yay and nay anyway.
Well, only when somebody votes nay, but if he's voting nay and then the minutes don't reflect, then he's voting nay and it can appear as though he doesn't need anything to be clarified.
But no, I don't ever say in the minutes who voted which way. Even when there are nay votes, I never say who did it.
Okay.
All we care about is does it pass, and it passed.
Okay, all I would ask is that going forward, if we're going to be a serious organization, that we vote based off of the motion in front of us and not skip.
Well, to me, the motion is the referral.
The motion is.
You're asking for clarification. You're asking for clarification on the referral, and I'm against the referral.
Okay, we can hash this out later, but Kermit, do you have something? Or
I was just going to say, why can't we just include a statement that we think in the referral or move back is we would like consideration of different architecture more conducive to the community. Why don't we just request that? Because Brian's right, you know, we're protesting. Why don't we just make the statement in there? We'd like to see the architecture change. If that's a consensus thing and everyone thinks it sucks, then why don't we just say, we'd like to see something different. for the
Everybody
house.
doesn't think it sucks.
Okay.
But because that might not be consistent with facts, like that we don't know the fact consistent with the community. There's a ton of shit that sucks in Cambria. Like, so yeah, sure, it sucks. Like, is it consistent? Is it not consistent? We don't know right now. So why don't we take a moment, get clarification on the facts? Dane's gonna finish up this information hold with the applicant, and when it comes before us again, and it probably will another 1 or 2 times, then we can make that assessment when we have our own facts. But I don't want to be an organization that's just like speaking in terms of like our opinion. Like, sure, does anybody like it? No, nobody moved here for that. But like, let's just get real on the facts and do our own research while they do theirs. I don't know why that's so difficult.
Each referral is independent. We look at this one independently of anything else. So it doesn't matter really how many houses in Cambria are like this. This one is ugly. It's an LA house, as Kermit
But that
pointed out.
doesn't get us anywhere. Like, that's fine, but that doesn't get us anywhere. That doesn't help Dane. That doesn't help the planning commission. That doesn't get us anywhere. Saying something's ugly is not action and it's not productive. We have to be productive and we have to operate in fact. And we can take this offline, fine. The vote's done. We'll move on. This meeting's going on too long. So thank you. We're moving on. Are we good, Karen? Okay. So I don't know if Jim Green has held out for this. If you want to move us through great water tanks, you are more than welcome. We're not going to call them ugly, or maybe we will. But the floor is yours. So go ahead. And thank you. And Dane, thank you for being here.
I seriously appreciate the opportunity. I will see you folks next month.
Thanks.
And reach out if you have questions about any of those projects. I'm the project manager.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Christina. And thank you, Dane. I mean, I'll start with our thanks to the county for the Stewart Street project. It was a long, arduous process. There was a lot to permit, and we worked very well. And thank the county, both planning and building, for their prompt response to our submissions throughout this process. So thank you. Yeah. I'm pleased to say we're going to break ground on this project next week. So this has been 3 years, excuse me, since we were EPA funded for this, and we've just gone through the final documentation submission for our $375,000 grant funding for this project. So that's fantastic. So again, we begin kind of the soft setup for this project next week. We'll establish staging areas for the project, which will be directly adjacent to the tanks themselves. And we'll begin establishing fence line, again, staging area, and then we'll de-water the tanks. Probably we're looking at September, late September. So our plan is to pump from one tank to the other. If not, we might have some supplemental water. So if anybody needs any irrigation water or something like that, we might have a couple thousand gallons left to distribute to the community for free. So yeah, we're looking, this is a year-long project. The duration of the project is a year. It's extended to August 20th of 2026. That is the completion date for this project. And look to check back in with you guys, maybe Christina, every other month or quarterly on updates and status. And after the project is done, we have some landscaping plans that we've run through our Resources Infrastructure Committee. So we're going to try and pretty up the area a little bit, make it look so not industrial when it's done. We'll have some privacy slats through the fencing around there, and the color of the tank is a torque tan color, so it'll blend in well with the community. And it's of course, coastal approved color for those commercial areas. And yeah, that's just about it for the update on that. So if there's any questions out there, I'd be glad to answer them. So yeah, appreciate you guys and the attendance tonight. So thank you.
Yeah, and I'll follow up. Jim's being humble about this project in terms of the length it's taken to get it complete. So Jim came in as a utilities manager. I think we're going on a year and a half now, and this project has been stalled for years, 2 years. Yeah, 2 years. And there were several missteps, in the process and several hangups. And Jim took this by the horns and has really pushed it forward. And we went from bolted tanks to welded tanks. And as we got deeper into the project, we realized that building code standards and earthquake standards have changed. So we've had to alter the project in terms of pouring new pads because they don't meet seismic standards for the new codes. And so that has increased our costs significantly. This is a much more expensive project than we had ever imagined. And Jim's pushed it forward. And so it's an important project. It may not sound like it, but when we talk about our domestic water storage and we talk about Palisades fire, our ability to have domestic storage, and we're 1.75 million gallons is what we're looking at.
Total storage, yeah, for the community.
Palisades was at how many gallons that they
were just short of 3 million. So yeah, just almost double what we have for a much larger community.
But a much larger community, right?
Yes.
So this is huge for us in terms of our domestic water storage for not only the community in terms of serving water, but for fire protection. And so getting this done is really, really important. And those tanks are old and they have some issues, and we're addressing it. And so it's going to be a year-long project, but we've done a really good job. Jim's done a really good job of pushing this project forward, and it's incredibly important, not only for our delivery of water to the community, but for fire protection. And I know there's a lot of members on this committee and in the community in general that are concerned about fire protection. And we talk about the Palisades, who had double the storage and ran out within a few hours in terms of what they needed for fire flow. This is really important for our fire protection. And so we're going to be taking, one tank out at a time and building another tank and get this done in a period in which the fire threat will be lower, but we'll be moving into seasons where we'll be in fire season and we'll have a tank down. So this is a vulnerable point for the community in terms of water storage and fire flow. And so we'll make adjustments as a district, but this is an important project that is actually moving forward, and we have funded through our reserves. And we've had a lot of conversations about our reserves, not only from the general fund standpoint, but from the enterprise standpoint. And this is why we have reserves. This is why you pay the rates that you pay, is to bolster our reserves for things like that, for our infrastructure needs. And this is a significant infrastructure need, and I'm really happy that we're moving it forward. And credit to Jim and his team, because they've done a phenomenal job in pushing this forward. So with that, I'll be quiet.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Good job.
Jeff Bloom, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just a simple question. What, to kind of put it in perspective, what's the expected lifespan of a tank like this?
So the original bolted steel in our environment were about 25 years. It was 2017 before we did our first repairs on those bolted steel tanks. These are welded steel tanks, and they are 60-year replacement duration. Now, if you take care of your infrastructure, which we have committed ourselves to doing, at least since I've been in my position, even as water superintendent 7 years ago, these are 100-year tanks if you take care of them correctly. These will be similar tanks. This is a Crosno engineered tank and design tank. It'll be very similar to the Fiscalini tank. The Fiscalini tank is, I think, approaching its 11th year right now. That tank a year ago, when it was dove and inspected for its 10-year inspection, is now in the AWA M36 manual for how to maintain it, how to build, how to maintain a tank. And that's an extreme coastal environment that it's in. So yeah, these tanks, these welded steel, not bolted steel tanks, will have twice the duration at least, if you don't take care of them, as the current infrastructure that's in there. So yeah. And that's an additional cost too, that was built into this.
Yeah, that's great because I mean, we're really building for the long term.
Absolutely. That's right. Again, like Matt touched on fire flow, and yes, we will be a tank off. Our system as a whole was built for a larger development that where we're at. So we are very fortunate to have 1.75 million gallons of storage in for us. In a true fire event like the Palisades, I don't think there's enough engineering you can have or enough capital improvement you can have to throw out Mother Nature. Mother Nature's going to win every time. But bolstering these tanks, it's not only for fire safety, it's also for health and you know, the water quality that we put out, because that is the most, I guess, traveled inventory, I would call it, of our water, because we pump up from our wells to rodeo grounds up to Stewart and then up to Fiscalini. So that's our most densely populated area. And so there's some, but this is a project that I brought to you back in January. It hasn't changed. It's just finally permitted now. So it's going to have baffles in it, which mix the water. So that'll keep the disinfection rate higher, longer. And we can use less disinfectant when we're treating the water from the source to maintain system residual. So it's just a win-win. It's something, it's best available technology that we have. We have great, again, I'll give a thanks to MKN, our consultants on the project, who've just done a wonderful job engineering this, you know, hand in hand with utility staff. And this will be a huge win for the district and the community.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Ted, with your hand.
Yeah, I mean, to me, you know, first of all, I'm sure this tank is going to be state of the art, and I know that Mr. Green has done a thorough job with this whole project. To me, this tank really represents water that we can be throwing just enough so that we could get out of here in the event of a major fire. I mean, that's, you know, that's really what we're talking about here. So, you know, it's as good as we're going to get, frankly, and I think it's, you know, I'm sure it's sized appropriately, and so that's my 2 cents. Thanks.
Thank you, Ted.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Appreciate you sticking this one out with us. Only
My pleasure.
question for you. You were talking about maybe water being available for people. Are you serious about that? And is that something that?
Yeah, so as we drain down the tank, there's only so low structurally you can put an effluent valve at, and that's at about 2 feet. At 2 feet in the tank, there's 12,000 gallons per lineal foot of each tank, roughly. So we'll get down to that 1.5 to 2 foot mark where we're unable to pump efficiently, and so we'll probably have, you know, 5 to 10,000 gallons that we're looking to disperse to the community efficiently.
All right, awesome. That would be cool. Okay, well, just keep us posted.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Well, have a good night. I'm not going to ask you to stick this out. Harry,
Okay, thanks again, everybody.
thank you, Jim, and congratulations. This is big. So thank you.
Appreciate it.
Harry and General Manager Matthew, do you guys want to Rochambeau over who tells us about the CCSD since it's almost 9 p.m.?
I'll always defer to my director first.
Well, let me put it this way. He can defer to me first so he can make corrections over what I say versus I am not going to make corrections over what the general manager says.
Go for it.
And so let me just say this, and I'd rather just speak off the cuff, as some people are obviously able to do with very little problem, but I've just written down some notes. Let me just basically read my notes and make it as quickly as I can. And so we had a meeting this past Thursday. If you were to look at the agenda, it didn't look like much was going to be happening. However, it was an extremely well-attended meeting for 2 reasons. First off, there are a large number of community folks who spoke up in a very, how could we say, orderly, a very passionate fashion, requesting that the board of directors ultimately create and approve a resolution making Cambria a sanctuary community. This had been proposed in the past or requested in the past by some members of the town in emails to board members, but it hasn't gone anywhere. So this was just a public comment, took over a half an hour, so no action was taken by the board. At the end of the meeting, yours truly requested that this item, in other words, the board voting on Cambria becoming a sanctuary community and having a, how could I say this, that we discuss and consider, and I can't even think of the word I want to use right now. So my apologies for that.
Resolution?
Resolution, something like that. Anyway, for board discussion and consideration. Under regular business, we had a very important item. I'm going to read it to you because it seems rather, well, here. Discussion and consideration to appoint an ad hoc committee to recommend to the board a clear scope of maintenance responsibilities for the Fiscalini Ranch Preserve. So once again, we had a number of folks speak on this item, beginning with FFRP, Friends of the Fiscalini Ranch Preserve, Executive Director Kitty Connolly, also their board chairperson, Diane Anderson, and then a number of other members of the board spoke to their concern about the lack of care that the ranch has been receiving from our Facilities and Resources Department in recent months. We also discussed the economic circumstances of both the district and Friends of the Fiscalini Ranch Preserve. So ultimately, all we did, I shouldn't say all we did, after much discussion, Board President Scott appointed herself and Director Karen Dean to the ad hoc committee to address the issue about who is actually going to be funding the monies, providing the monies, the funds to take care of the ranch, especially with regard to fire protection, forest health, and so forth. So ultimately, probably what's going to be happening is President Scott and Director Dean will probably be meeting with FFRP Executive Director Connolly and Board Chair Anderson, and they will come to some type of, how could we say it, a compatible agreement with regard to how do we fund the care of the ranch. So that's my comment on that. The board also voted by a vote of 4-1, approving the amended and updated project description for the coastal development permit application for the water reclamation facility. And this needs to be filed with the SLO County Planning Department. The main changes that took place in this amended and updated version was photos, or not photos, how could we say it? We had diagrams as to what's going to be happening with regard to the zero liquid discharge project, pilot project that's going to be investigated in October. So we just kind of updated, like I said, the project with that in mind. So there we are. We also approved the final CCSD budget for fiscal year 2025 and 2026. We received and filed the fourth quarter budget report. And we also reviewed and discussed a will serve letter for a minor use coastal development permit for a home that's going to be built off of Cambria Pines Road. This particular project already has a will serve letter, in other words, a water permit for it. And due to an agreement that took place back in 1999, the district is obligated to allow a project such as this to be approved, even though right now we're not issuing any further intent to serve letters. So And then we went to, after we finished the meeting, which I'll discuss in a moment, we went to closed session to discuss the board's evaluation of the general manager, and the meeting ended at exactly 4 p.m. With regard to what's going to be happening at our September agenda, 3 items of importance. First off, you are probably all already aware of the fact that Julie Amadei and the folks involved with Skate Cambria have raised all the monies that are needed to build the skate park. So this is going to come up for review in our September meeting. Request for proposal for various companies, I guess you would say, that want to bid on building the skate park. Also, we're going to be voting on a new board vice president. Michael Thomas, who is the current board VP, has resigned from this position, and his reasons were given at the meeting. And then we're going to have a further closed session discussion regarding the recent evaluation of the general manager. This time he will be present, and we'll have a discussion with him as to what we approved last week, or what we discussed last week in closed session. I want to mention one more thing. Utilities Manager Green was just here. He touched base on what I was going to discuss, but I just want to let you know, with regard to, and this is something that's important to all of us, the San Simeon well levels are still adequate for our community. We've been using the Santa Rosa wells the last couple of months. So as a result, despite a substantial lack of rain this past year, because our community is so committed to water conservation, we're still in pretty good shape. So that's the end of my report. I hope it came across somewhat adequately. Thank you.
It was great. Thank you, Harry.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll just jump on that and close it out, and I'll hope I'll close it out quickly. So as Director Farmer talked about, there was an ad hoc appointed for the Fiscalini Ranch. As a district, we are struggling financially, and we have tried to do different things to balance our budget. The LAFCO in our municipal service review 1 year ago told us that we had declining revenues. Our expenditures were exceeding our revenues by 12% every 5 years. We were in a fiscal deficit in facilities and resources. And so we started looking at ways in which we could balance that budget by hiring a third maintenance technician, eliminate some of the contracting, and having some of our staff do some of the maintenance on the ranch. We did that the first year and balanced our budget. The second year, we've done the same and balanced our budget and facilities and resources and came under about $8,000. But there has been some consternation about some of the things that still need to be done on the ranch. And so we're going to work with the Friends of the Fiscalini Ranch, who, and I'll be candid, have a hefty endowment of approximately $6.6 million. And we're looking to work more collaboratively with them on how we can, keep the district out of a deficit philosophy, and working with them on potentially funding more ranch maintenance. And so that's been a difficult issue to navigate, but we're working on that, and that's what the ad hoc's going to do. But I just want to say, from a district perspective, we're trying to keep the district in a healthy position to maintain operations and safety. And LAFCO has pointed out that we have a potential threat to operations and safety within the district when it comes to continuing to spend money that we really don't have. And so from a general manager perspective, I put that forward, and we've tried to been basically balancing our budget and trying to do what we can do within our financial constraints. Again, this is the general fund and the general fund only. Some people conflate enterprise funds and what we've been doing with the WRF and water rates with the general fund, and that's not a correct way to look at it. So we're working on that, and we're going to try to work with the Friends of the Fiscalini Ranch to figure out a way that we can move forward and have the ranch maintained to where it needs to be maintained while also keeping the district in a healthy position. As Director Farmer noted, Skate Cambria has closed the gap on the funding issues with the skate park. We're in the process of verifying the funds being deposited into the bank accounts. Once we have those funds verified, we're going to move forward on the September 11th agenda to move forward with the board authorizing staff to go out for a request for proposal for construction for the skate park. And then from there, we've got to navigate the bidding process, selecting the contractor, and then navigating when we can eventually go into the construction phase, because we're heading into August, September, October, which is our wet season, and is incredibly more expensive to try to construct a skate park or any project in the wet season because of the complications. And if anybody knows where the location of the skate park is, there's that retaining wall there, a large hillside. And if we get into the wet weather, we could run into a lot of problems which will increase costs. So I want to temper expectations on when the skate park will be completed. We're moving towards the RFP, moving towards selecting towards a contractor, but the construction phase may not take place until 2026. And that's just trying to temper expectations on that piece. As Director Farmer noted, we amended the project description per the county's request in their information hold to include road improvements which are a part of the permanent coastal development permit, which has to do with road improvements.
Really
So
quick, Matthew, sorry to interrupt you, but you're talking about the project description for the WRF?
That's correct. Sorry.
Okay. All right. No, you jumped from skate park, so I just wanted to make sure everybody was clear.
Yeah. So our project description for the water reclamation facility had to be amended per the information hold, which in our emergency permit, there was a lot of things that we didn't have to do, right? And we've been in that emergency permit for 10 plus years. As we move towards a permanent coastal development permit, there are other standards that the county wants us to meet. One of those is road improvements, tree inventory. There's a lot of different things. So we had to amend that project description, in which was approved, and we will submit that to the county. And I'm proud to say that we have submitted the last of the information hold questions, which we went from 25 plus, we were down to 8, and we just submitted those. My expectation is, unless there's any further clarifying questions, that the county will accept that. We potentially could be moving to the next phase, which could be a planning commission hearing, which is pretty much unheard of in terms of the history of this project. So we're looking forward to that. That's not to say that that's going to happen right away. There could be a follow-up question to the information hold, and we will address that. What else? I think that was most of what I had to say in terms of that, but we're pretty excited about the things that we're doing in the district and some of the projects that we're moving forward. We came in with a balanced budget last year, actually came in under budget significantly, which started to replenish some of our general fund reserves. And we put forward another budget that is fairly balanced. We're going into a little bit of a deficit because we're going to start doing some repairs on the Veterans Hall to include floors and some of the other aesthetics that need to be replaced. If anybody's been in our Vets Hall, they can see that it's been in a bit of disrepair. So we're starting to move towards working on some of our infrastructure with the Vets Hall. And I'm open to any questions.
Thank you. I appreciate your brain still being on at this hour. I don't see any hands. I'm sure if somebody has a question, they'll oh, Ted Key, just when you think somebody didn't have a question. Go ahead.
It's a real question, and I think I know the answer. Is there any consideration in the remodel for Vets Hall, including solar on top?
We have looked at that, and we're trying to think about the ROI on the solar. Depending on where we put the solar, because we've talked to engineers about it and how we would have to put in the solar, whether it be over the entire parking lot, and what it would cost to put it in, and some of the rollbacks on incentives and breaks in terms of the installation of solar and our climate we're not exactly sure if the ROI is there. We're still looking into it. We're definitely looking into it. Possibly battery backup would be an option in terms of some solar in combination with the battery backup. But it's a significant investment to do that. So it is something that we're looking at.
Well, the reason I ask is that incentives are going to be disappearing at the end of the year. So, you know, if you're going to strike, you know, while the iron's hot, now would probably be the time. And the other consideration is, you know, if you're turning the Vets Hall into an emergency center of one sort or another, to have some form of battery backup or some kind of backup power comes into play, I think.
Yeah, we're definitely looking at it. I don't know if we're going to be able to move that quickly based on our current financial situation. We got some serious projects ahead of us in terms of infrastructure needs for the fire department. So it could be a stretch, but we're definitely looking at it, Ted.
How far do you think you're going to get with the money that was raised for the fire department from the it was a very successful fundraiser. What was it, $128,000 or something? Some incredible amount of money.
Yeah, that's a great point. They're moving forward. So the Fire Safe Council is actually holding that money. So I want to be clear, the CCSD does not have that money. We don't manage that money. They're running it through the 501c3 in coordination with the fire department. They've started some of the upgrades in terms of fencing and security fencing. The next phase will be the kitchen remodel, some of the turnout lockers, some of the other equipment. So that's moving along. It's moving along pretty well. And I think we're going to meet most of all of our needs with that, and credit to the fundraising group, because that will actually offset some of our CIP list items that have been there for quite a while. If you've ever paid attention to our budget and our CIP list, that'll enable us to start removing stuff from our CIP list that the district would have been on the hook for. And on top of that, running it through the 501c3 without any district involvement eliminates some of the cost because of prevailing wage when you are a government entity. So through a 501c3, they can fund a lot of these things through contractors that don't have to pay prevailing wage, which is about a 50% savings. So it's actually pretty miraculous, the community that stood this up and supported it, because they're doing some amazing things for our public safety and for our fire department.
Well, I just hope that those funds will alleviate some of the tight budgets you have.
It's definitely gonna help. Yeah, I mean, we have some big expenditures coming in terms of a couple fire engine replacements that are at 1.2 to 1.3 a piece. We do have Mr. Panetta, who actually forwarded our request to fund a fire engine. It's gone all the way to DC. It's at their level, at DC's level, to approve, and we'll know by the end of the year whether or not the federal government will actually fund one of our fire engine replacements, which, fingers crossed, because we had a letter of support from NCAC, we've had a letter of support from the Fire Safe Council, and he moved it forward. So he approved that, much like Templeton got. If anybody paid attention, Templeton got a new fire engine through Mr. Panetta's office and his support. And our hope is that the same will happen. DC is a little bit of a mess right now, but we're hoping that does happen. And that would save our district literally $1.3 million, which would help us move forward to our other replacement needs in terms of fire apparatus.
Okay, well, Godspeed to you all.
Yeah, seriously. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Matthew. Fire chief's report linked to in the agenda. I believe it's on the website. If it's not, I'll have it up by the morning. Karen, her outreach committee report is linked. I don't know if you want to go through that. I don't know that there's
not necessary.
Yeah, okay, yeah, not necessarily. You're so proper. Am I missing anyone here? Let's see. I don't think so. Unless somebody has something that they just need to share, I think we could call it a really long night, and I would say thank you to everybody for sticking through this.
11.
Conversations that needed to be had, so sorry they have to happen at like from 6 to 9. All right, Harry's got his hand up. You gonna tell us more about your driving history?
No. I just want to make a comment and an observation. Our general manager, in about 10 minutes or so, was unbelievably eloquent in stating everything that you needed to know at this meeting. And I just, it's after 9 o'clock, and Matt just did a great job. And I just wanted to commend Matt for that and just bring it to our attention. There you are. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Harry, and thank you, Matthew, for staying here so late to give us that report. Both of you, actually. Yeah, just thank you. Thank you to everyone. I don't have anything else. So are we done? Karen, you should have a gavel. Good.
I would have cracked it on my head 2 hours ago.
Good night.
Finito. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.